And Jerome Tang turned down Arkansas. Like, Arkansas made a run at Jerome Tang, and he turned him down, stayed at Kansas State. And I think you can make a strong case that Jerome Tang, the job he would leave for, would be Baylor. And he doesn't have to worry about that now. And you bring in transfers, and I think Jerome Tang did a pretty damn good job this last year coaching that team with what was expected to be on the court versus what ended up being on the court. Because, as I've said before, if Naquan Tomlin would have stayed in the NBA draft, Jerome Tang would have found a replacement for him in the transfer portal, and they would have had a better team on the floor.
Yes.
But Naquan Tomlin was returning. You didn't have to find a spot for him. He was the guy. And then he doesn't play. Sometimes it happens with injuries. That sucks. This one wasn't even an injury. This was a disagreement with the higher-ups there, with decisions that Naquan Tomlin made.
Sure.
Or put himself in situations, okay? So all the details and everything, that people have talked about, and there's some, certainly some discussion about whatever took place. But it's obvious Gene Taylor and Jerome Tang thought something else was going to be the end result for Naquan Tomlin, and Richard Linton did not. So we'll see when the contract comes out for Jerome Tang what is included, what the buyout is going to be with Jerome Tang in that contract, what's the extension, those particulars, those details that happen with that. But I think K-State can feel comfortable with their coaches moving forward for a while.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if Scott Drew is staying, and that means he's staying, in my opinion, for a long time.
He's a lifer.
You're going to be a lifer. I don't see a situation or a scenario where all of a sudden Jerome Tang is going elsewhere. He has embraced K-State. K-State has embraced him. He doesn't have ties everywhere else. Like,
you're right.
Why would you go anywhere else? You are the guy. You can do what Scott Drew, and this is a great example for Jerome Tang. Look what Scott Drew has done in Baylor and how Baylor has embraced him, and he's now a lifer there. You can do the exact same thing. You went into a better situation, of course, but you can do the exact same thing, be a lifer at K-State if you continuously have success.
Yeah.
And you're not going to have the pressure at Kentucky or Michigan State if you go to these other programs where all of a sudden you're following a legend now. Don't. Become a legend at
right.
K-State.
That's right. I think the Arkansas job was massive. Not a massive program, but a massive deal that they made the push for him. And he said no. He said no, thank you. And there are I think every program, to a degree, has some sort of inferiority complex. I think every fan base has some sort of an inferiority complex to a degree, unless you're like a Yankee fan or whatever, then you just feel like you're superior to everything, or East Coast or whatever. But I think even Kansas fans to a degree, be like, oh, well, to hell with Kentucky and North Carolina and these teams. I think Kentucky, to hell with UCLA. They've won 11. No, stop talking about UCLA and their 11 national championships. 10 of them came in 12 years, okay? Missouri has that. Kansas State has that. And I think it would have been a huge knock and a huge punch to the gut if Jerome Tang would have taken the Arkansas job. I think it would have been a lesser punch to the gut, but still a punch to the gut if he took the Baylor job. But now you don't have to worry about that, and you can just simply talk about and discuss moving forward. You've got a head coach that's really good on the football side, that seems happy on the football side, and you've got an opportunity with the way the playoff is set up now to make the college football playoffs. You got a stud quarterback that, hopefully turns out to be what a lot of people feel like he could be in college football, and a team that is going to be well coached. You can win the conference. You can make the college football playoff now. And you've got a coach that has already proven he can get you at least on the doorstep of the Final Four.
Yeah.
Of getting to the Final Four. At least got you there, close, a play here or there in the last couple of minutes. And K-State's playing San Diego State in the national semifinal. And they win the regional. But it wasn't the case. It wasn't to be. FAU ended up winning that game. They go on to play San Diego State. But he's got the ability to do that and take some guys, some transfers, and bring them together. And he goes and gets a pretty damn good transfer, brings him in, which was sort of the conversation of, okay, so now he's going to take the Arkansas job. Is he going to take the transfer with him? Is he going to leave that guy behind? He's a pretty good player, leading scorer. So what happens with that? I think he's proven that the man can coach. I don't think you luck into having a season in year one like he did and get to the Elite Eight. I don't think you luck into that. And then trying to get that team last year on the same page. And you can replenish with transfers year after year. It's like going to the bullpen. Every once in a while, you're going to run into a transfer here or there that just isn't the guy you thought he would be. Kansas ran into that with Nick Timberlake. yeah, Will Smith, right. But, I mean, Kansas had that with Nick Timberlake. Missouri had that with almost every one of their transfers.
Every single one. No, there wasn't almost. It was every
of the transfers
all
for,
of them.
For Mizzou. And Kansas State, I like Tyler Perry. Talking to him at the Final Four, he was awesome. He was really cool, really nice dude. We, talked for a little bit after the interview was over. You can tell the passion that he has for K-State, even only spending a year there. But he didn't really defend. He had some turnover issues. He wasn't Marquise Noel, and that's unfortunate for him to be compared to that because of what Noel was and, taking the country by storm in the NCAA tournament and making the Elite Eight. So you can't just simply go, okay, we're going to replace that guy with this guy. I mean, it seems nice on paper, but then you got to go and actually play the game. But Jerome Tang can coach.
Biggest winner today, K-State fans. Biggest loser today,
Kentucky. Yeah. I think you can argue Baylor or K-State, but regardless, from the local perspective, I think it's K-State because they don't have to worry about that. Because Baylor would have 100% lost their coach.
Well, but then I also think
there was
Baylor,
no doubt they would have lost their coach. K-State, it was a chance that they would have lost their coach. Baylor 100% would have lost their coach if Kentucky got Scott Drew. But the biggest loser is Kentucky. You're right about that.
And now Jerome Tang can come out and say, "Oh, I was never going to entertain that job." No,
I'm not.
Didn't even
I'm not
think
going
about
anywhere.
Baylor.
I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah.
What is it? What is it about last Friday night that makes you think that I'm going somewhere? Let me be. Let me go and recruit. Let's build this team here. Let's build this.
You got the Beatles playing in the background. Let it be.
Let's make this thing amazing. Let's do it out of love. Isn't it amazing? Just let me be. And he's going to do that. So there you go. There's the news that came down right before we went on the air that Scott Drew was turned down Kentucky. I'm not sure where they go, but I do know there were a lot of people that were not inspired by the Scott Drew hire. That were like, really, it's Scott Drew? I hope he turns it down. I hope he turns it down. Okay. Beware what you wish for. Who's next? Nate Oates is staying. Like, this is what's so fascinating and what is so different about college basketball now from 15 years ago. These coaches aren't turning that job down 15 years ago. Nate Oates ain't staying at Alabama because he doesn't have an $18 million buyout because Alabama didn't care about basketball the way that they are investing in basketball now. Oh, my God, they went to a Final Four. Nate Oates would be like, all right, cool. I got a half-full arena. And now I can go coach Kentucky? Cool. Because, it was odd for Kentucky fans if they were going to get Nate Oates from Alabama because then you're taking the basketball coach away from your favorite football team. The Alabama Crimson Tide is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yes, the old saying before they got Mark Stoops is, what's the Kentucky football chant? Roll Tide. So that would have been odd, You get the Alabama basketball coach there now. Now it can connect everything. But that ain't happening.
And also that might fly under the radar. I know Alabama will always be a football school, but you don't have to compete with Nick Saban anymore. It's Kalen DeBoer there as a basketball program.
Absolutely.
And maybe just the fact that it's not as shiny as Nick Saban, a little more enticing.
And look, there's something to be look, the best program, best job, all of that stuff. I think Texas is a pretty damn good job. The reason it's a good job is because you got all the facilities in the world. You're going to be well taken care of in money. And if you don't win, you get a longer leash to not win because it's not football. Because there are often times when it's like, oh, the basketball team ain't doing all that well. Okay, well, win spring football.
Yeah.
Let's go. Win spring, especially now when it's all about heading to the SEC.
Or even baseball.
Yeah, right. I mean, heck,
sure.
Yeah. And Alabama, same thing. Like Alabama, basketball was just a thing to pass the time before baseball and certainly spring football. And now you got Kalen DeBoer, and there's always going to be interest in football in Alabama. But if you're Nate Oates, do I leave a place where I'm well taken care of? I got packed house arena. I'm getting players. I got Brandon Miller here last year, right? I'm getting players to Alabama. And if I don't make a Final Four in 6 or 7, 8 years, they're not asking to fire me. If I go to Kentucky, I'm going to make a lot of money. How much more am I making there than I'm making right now? I get the status symbol of being at Kentucky, but I also get the immediate pressure. It starts right now. There is not a day off. You better be recruiting, you better be winning, and you better do it in March and April. Because if not, you gots to go. And I think Nate Oates would have been a great hire there. I think they should call Bruce Pearl. If you're really talking about coaches that, would fit the sort of personality traits of a coach, I think, Bruce Pearl would certainly be that. I think Mark Pope is a good coach. I'm not sure where they go. Not sure. I mean, you got to wonder if Bill Self is on the line. I mean,
hopefully not Matt Quatraro. That you will not take away Matty Q.
Don't take Q, okay? Do not take Matt Quatraro. We will take a timeout. We'll come back. We will talk about that and what Q and the Royals are doing. And Vinny Pasquantino breaking out last night. Stat I looked up last night, and it's true. It's a crazy stat with Vinny Pasquantino. Vinny Pasquantino was leading Major League Baseball in RBIs dating back to yesterday. Did you know that? Leading all of baseball in RBIs dating back to yesterday morning.
Strong.
The guy's on fire. All right, hanging out here on this Thursday edition of The Zone. We'll talk with Craig Stout coming up at 11 o'clock, Daniel Harms at noon, Sports or Leisure at 1 o'clock today. We'll talk some Royals baseball here as they just continue to win. Some funny things from yesterday, though, as Scott Drew was turned down the Kentucky job, whether there was an offer made or not. He and his family decided they were happy in Waco, didn't want to mess with happiness, and stayed there in Waco, keeping the Baylor job and keeping all of the talk and conversation about whether Jerome Tang would take the Baylor job, rendering that moot because that is not open right now. But yesterday was fascinating on Twitter because you had Scott Drew, that is, maybe flirting with Kentucky, eating chips and salsa with a big booster for Baylor. All the while, Chip Gaines is battling on Twitter with Kentucky fans. and people talking about that, Kentucky's got all the money, they can afford Scott Drew, and Chip Gaines goes, money's boring. We got God on our side. Well, God won. They had God on their side, and God won. See, that's what happens, Kentucky. If you had a little more God on your side, you could have got Scott Drew. But you've got Baylor that has God, and it has shiplap, and it's got reclaimed wood, and it's got renovations, and it's got fixer-uppers, because, damn it, Baylor was one hell of a fixer-upper, and Chip and Joanna know a fixer-upper when they see it, and Scott Drew came through for them. And are you...
Dog,
Baylor,
I gotta stop.
Are you ready to see your new program?
I gotta stop you. How I understood the reference of Chip and Joe, but I'm just sitting here. How many people listening right now understood
every of the people listening?
All the wives of the all the wives, like, yes, I get that one. My fiance is like, I heard Chip and Joe, Magnolia, whatever it's called,
Magnolia Farms, baby.
Magnolia Farms.
Somebody tweeted Chip Gaines and said, "Who the bleep is this guy?" And he replied and said, "Ask your mom." She knows who I am. I love that he's self-aware, right?
Yeah, that's great.
Self-aware. Ask your mom. Okay, you want to know who I am? Your mom knows who I am, punk.
I will say, you get sucked into those shows.
Chip Gaines. I got God on my side. You got Big Blue and bourbon and horse racing and money. We got God. And shiplap.
I am a big shiplap guy.
Who isn't?
I got big shiplap guy.
I mean, who isn't? My wife and I, when we were moving back, we were looking at different houses and looking all over the place. So we were, looking in Johnson County and Lee Summit and up north a little bit. And we went to a house and I walked in, and my wife wasn't in town at the time, so I'm FaceTiming with her to show her everything, and it looked like Chip Gaines threw up in there. or you know what? Joanna. Not Chip.
Yeah.
Joanna. Yeah. It looked like Joanna. She threw up in there. Everything was like right out of an episode. And I'm like, yeah, my wife may love this, but in about 5 or 6 years, if we're going to, sell it, or 10 years, this might just be the flavor of the year right now.
Was
I don't
it
think
open concept?
It was open concept. There was shiplap everywhere. There were barn doors instead of regular doors that would slide back and forth. Like every table in there was like, it was
rustic. It was
rustic and reclaimed wood and everything. It's like, wow. I mean, Joanna Gaines came in here and just simply threw up, and this is what it looks like.
I would love if baseball teams or sports teams started using. No. This is rustic. This player, he's a rustic player. He's reclaimed.
It's Will Smith.
Yeah, it's a reclaimed.
Will Smith is reclaimed wood.
Yeah, he's reclaimed wood. This is a rustic player.
Jordan Lyles is shiplap, only you can change the P to a T.
No. Jordan Lyles is deconstructed. Like if you're in the restaurant biz, when they mess up something and then they put all the ingredients next to each other so you can make it yourself. It's a deconstructed taco. That's what this is.
It's an open face
sandwich.
Face.
Yeah.
That's what Jordan Lyles. You know what? He came through without giving up a run. That scoreless streak continues for the Royals. All you haters, you doubters, what more do you want from this team than what they're giving you right now? The bullpen is lights out. Seth Lugo's going out there and giving up only a couple of runs. Another quality start for the starters. And the boys in blue busting out the bats, alliteration and all, and scoring 11 runs and everybody having a part in it. Even Adam Frazier's like, hey, I'll have some fun with you guys too. And Vinny Pasquantino's like, I know the boat has been leaving the dock, but I'm going to jump over and actually join you guys. And I'm going to do it in pretty big fashion. And I'm going to do it with a home run, a double, a single, 5 RBIs, a sac fly. and have a little fun here today for Vinny Pasquantino. Last night was a lot of fun to beat down a team like the Astros like that, who have beat plenty of teams down, including the Royals, in the last couple of years, and to win 6 in a row and to see that they're in sole place of second place in the division. And injuries suck, but it's reality. And Shane Bieber down for the Guardians, and that's who's leading the division right now. The White Sox could have helped them out by not losing in extra innings, but they won the other night, so it's fine. The Royals just have to take care of business to keep winning, and they'll have games against the Guardians, but just keep taking care of business and doing what you do, because right now, man, it is fun. It is fun watching the Royals, what they're able to do, and how everybody is playing a role and playing their part.
Well, and we were talking the break ago. I can't remember the last time me and my fiance went to a bar to watch the Royals play. I can't. It was definitely not last year when you're watching that 50-win debacle. The Royals are fun right now. And that's what makes this so much more enjoyable is when you're actually watching again, they don't have to be great. We all said around 500, just don't flounder in April. Just stay afloat. And you're right. They're swimming like Michael Phelps right now. And Vinny, as you mentioned, he finally got it going. I think the double was a big weight off his shoulders. It wasn't the best hit ball. He had a great first at bat. And then he got a high fastball, and he just placed it well. It wasn't smoked, but he went with it. Left field, nice double. I think a weight was lifted. Yeah. And then the real weight was when he got that ball over the fence. The home run, that was huge for him going forward. And I think we're going to start seeing him go more on a tear. And he mentioned it. You're pressing.
Yes.
I know it's early in the year, and everyone wants to say, well, it's early. Tell it to a guy who's he's watching all his other guys in the lineup start raking, and he's still back there batting third, struggling. Like he's Joe Namath.
I don't care about Vinny struggling. But I want to kiss you right now.
Oh, Jason, cute.
Thanks, Joe. Yeah.
But this was the Vinny game.
I couldn't care less about the team struggling. Yeah!
That's what everybody did when Vinny hit the home run. What did it sound like? What did Kauffman sound like when Vinny went yard?
Yeah!
Go ahead.
I was going to say, this really wasn't a Vinny game, though, because Vinny had still been taking walks and not striking out for the year.
Yes, that's right.
6 walks, 5 strikeouts. So the process is good. If you know me, I'm a big process guy. Okay.
Well, you worked in Philly, so.
I did work in Philly. I did literally work during the process, yes. Yeah, I've been brainwashed. Guess how many walks versus strikeouts the Royals had last night?
I don't know.
6 and 5. 6 walks, 5 strikeouts. So look at that. It had to have been a big Vinny game. Clearly. But this has been the Royals in general. Good process.
Yeah. No, it's been fun. And the batting order, just the difference of throwing a couple of guys in there that are performing at the level they are. Because most of last year was Garcia looks good. Bobby Witt is busting out and showing that he's a star. Vinny's injured, so now you got to figure that out. Salvi, is he getting old? He looks slow. The bat speed might be slowing down. Maybe it's just time to hit the eject button and cut the anchor there. What's going on? MJ looks rough. Edward Olivares is a lackluster DH that's also playing in the field. Michael Massey's batting .220, and he's running into a ball every now and then, but he's batting .220. Ooh, Freddie Fermin looks pretty good. That's kind of fun. Isbell's playing an awesome center field, but continues to just swing over every pitch. Ugh. And now, Garcia is one of the worst guys in the lineup. And it's not like it because he's batting .200, but he's also driving the baseball, and he'll be fine. But when your lineup has 1 through 6 that you feel like any of them can come through, Garcia, Bobby, Vinny, Salvi, and then the importance of MJ and Nelson Velasquez cannot be overstated. What MJ has done and Nelson Velasquez, what he has done to elongate that batting order, which is a big reason why they're scoring the way that they are, which is a big reason why the Royals have played 12 games. I didn't realize this until reading the Royals notes last night after the game was over. I realized they played 12 games.
That was my question. Was that you didn't realize they played 12 games?
I didn't even realize they've only played 12 games. They've played 12 games.
Call it.
They've batted around in the inning 4 times already. Did you realize that? They have batted around in an inning 4 times already in the 12 games they've played. It didn't say on the notes. I don't know how many times they batted around last year. Over 162. I'd guess it's more than 4. But the fact that the Royals, through 12 games, a third of their games, they've had an inning where they've batted around. Every 3 games, they have an inning where they bat around. And the fact that only 6 times in all of baseball so far this year, in every of the games that have been played in baseball so far, 6 times a team has scored 7 or more runs in an inning. The Royals have 2 of those 6. I mean, you throw in 2 more guys in the lineup that are performing like this, and you get Vinny healthy and breaking out last night. Yeah, now the lineup is saying, hey, we can now match what the starting staff is doing, and we're putting runs on the board, and we're going to put some crooked numbers up there from time to time. And every 3rd game, so that's either the Astros today, the Mets tomorrow, or the Mets Saturday, by, the pace, one of those games, they will bat around in an inning. It's unbelievable what MJ has done, and Nelson Velasquez has been. I mean, we talk about Cole Reagans, and that's on a different level. Aroldis Chapman for Cole Reagans. But Jose Cuas and getting Nelson Velasquez back could be as sneaky of a dynamite robbing that you'll see in baseball.
Yeah, and Nelson Velasquez, the question was, we know he can hit the ball hard. Is it going to be a Edward Olivares 2.0? Is this a guy who maybe has more power? He's still a DH, not an outfielder. What actually is he? Is he a 3 true outcomes guy? This year, and again, particularly going back to last night, the plate appearances that he has been putting together have been noticeably different this year compared to last. He went opposite field twice.
Yeah.
Twice. He goes, okay, 2-strike count. Normally I'm going to try and hit a home run. What typically happens? You strike out, 2 strikes. What are you doing? Just go oppo. Look at the huge gaps. So he did. He drove in 2 runs by going to opposite field, just hitting a ball like he's Johnny Damon.
But also it was just like it's such an easy swing for him. Like his power is so easy that he looked like he barely swung. I mean, the ability to control the bat when you've got that easy of what looks like a light swing, and the ball is bouncing off the bat like it did. Also, he's done it now multiple times in games where he's just driven it right to where the second baseman typically would be, but he's not there, so he just puts it right there into right field. Now you're going to have the defense start adjusting, which then opens up the middle of the field when he's hitting it right back up the middle. They put the second baseman where he is right now for a reason, and Velasquez is now showing, I'm just going to go to where you guys aren't because I've got an easy swing, and if it's going to be on the outside, I'm going to take that way because I don't need to hit a home run to drive in these runs.
Does it remind you a little bit of when Moustakas came back up? He got sent down, came back up, and he worked on hitting the ball opposite field for basically an entire season, right? And then the year following, I think that was the year following when he hit all those home runs, right? Because it opened up the entire field. It opened up and allowed him to go. All of a sudden, you're not having the massive shift against you. Now, I know in today's baseball, the shift is a little different.
Yeah.
It's pretty much the same.
Except for the rover in the outfield.
Yeah, besides the rover, but you can still go up to the bag.
Yeah.
So it's still a fairly far over
close.
shift, right?
Yeah.
So if Velasquez keeps doing this, you're going to open up a lot more room on the field for you to then tap back into that power. Because teams are not going to start doing that when there's 2 guys on and there's an RBI opportunity and there's a massive gap. Now that you have shown the ability multiple times to go oppo, not just a weak dribbler, to actually hit the ball hard the opposite field. That's what's so impressive.
He's played 50 games for the Royals so far. And in those 50 games, he's OPSing over 900 for the Royals. In 50 games, not 5, not 10. Not 20, but 50. He has 16 home runs, which is a pace of 52. Over the course of a full season, over 162 would be 52 home runs. And I mean, there's a reason why he's OPSing at 900 because he's slugging almost 600, because he's crushing the baseball and he's got an easy swing. And when he gets it, like he doesn't have to swing and come out of his shoes to do that. I'm excited. I don't want to get out over my skis on Velasquez. The excitement for me with him is also in relation to the fact that they got him for Jose Cuas. Yeah. If he was a first-round draft pick, it'd be like, okay, look, you see some things that are coming along, But the fact that they got him for Jose Cuas is even better. And if he can be a productive player in the lineup and not be okay, so you got Frazier and you got Renfroe and you got Velasquez at the bottom of the lineup. Okay, so let's just see if you can get back to the top. And hopefully you can get there. That would be good. Or Isbell.
Yeah.
You got Velasquez and then Renfroe and then Frazier and then Isbell. So you got almost half your lineup is going to be a big hole that's there. Well, Renfroe's going to run into some from time to time, and he had a double last night.
Six-game hit streak.
Damn it. MJ Melendez has an 11-game on-base streak to start the season. You know, he's reached base every single game MJ Melendez has played this year. And so you have a lineup 1 through 9 that you feel like anytime that guy's up, outside of a couple, Frazier and Isbell, but they do what they do. Yeah. Okay, you're not going to have 1 through 9. If you're the Royals, you're not going to have 1 through 9 of guys that are batting 300. But a guy's up at the plate, and you feel confident about this guy being able to come through, especially with Vinny breaking out last night.
I will also point out, for all the bleep that Adam Frazier has got, he's getting on base at a 355 clip.
For sure.
5 walks, 3 strikes. Again, small sample size. His defense has been
take a drink for that.
Actually rated fairly well, right? Defense has been rated fairly well outside of last night's throw was just, I have no idea if it got stuck in his hand or what that was.
It's Knobloch?
Yeah, Chuck Knobloch. Yeah, that was Chuck Knobloch. But I think Adam Frazier, again, you're going to get, I know it's the old Dayton Moore saying the professional at-bats. But you are.
Yeah.
Again, he might not hit 290, but he will get on base at a good clip. He's not going to strike out a ton. He will put the ball in play. And then Hunter Renfroe, as we mentioned, he's perpetually been a 20 home run guy.
Yeah.
Perpetually been a 20 home run guy. And I'm starting to also think with Nelson Velasquez, he was a 5th-round draft pick. We're not talking about like a round of 40. I mean, it wasn't first, but it was a 5th-round guy.
Yeah, it wasn't some guy that all of a sudden they found on the streets and was like, well, let's do an open tryout. Who's this guy?
When he was doing what he was doing last year, we said pump the brakes on the Jorge Soler talk because the swing is similar. Jorge Soler is a little bit bigger still as far as just size-wise. And Soler's, quite frankly, done it for a longer period of time. But you're starting to see, again, more and more of that comp actually coming through. A little different now, right? I think Nelson Velasquez is starting to go to opposite field a little bit more, but you're talking a DH. And if Velasquez can be not 900 OPS, because that's crazy. Yeah. If he can be an 800 OPS, that is a legit DH. That's a guy that you can put there and feel comfortable with. And if they can get that for Jose Cuas, insane. Again, the lineup is getting deeper, as you're mentioning, 6 guys deep. But I do think with Adam Frazier 7, Hunter Renfroe 8, if that's the current lineup, you're pretty happy with that top 8. Kyle Isbell, again, he can be in your team. He can be playing center field. He can be batting 9th with these 8 guys. He couldn't if Velasquez and MJ Melendez were, well, Velasquez just fell off a cliff, and if MJ Melendez was doing what he did the first half of last year.
I'm not comparing the Royals to the Chiefs, so let me just preface that. But when we look at what the Chiefs did last year with the defense that they played, every game out, you knew the defense would give the offense a chance to win. And every game out with Patrick Mahomes, you knew the offense would give the defense a chance to win. Like that complementary football we talk about, right? Well, we started the season saying, well, the starting staff, 1 through 4, we'll see what Alec Marsh does. But 1 through 4, you got a good idea, feeling that you got a chance to win that game with whoever's on the mound. And I think what the offense is showing now is that each night they're also complimenting that, hey, starting staff, you got a chance to win the game tonight because the offense can put up crooked numbers at any time. It felt like, hey, you got a chance to win because this guy's only going to give up a couple, 2 or 3 runs over 6 innings. So you got a chance to win that game. Let's see what the offense does. And now you got the offense scoring double digits in 4 different games so far. And 4 times batting around. I mean, somehow Cole Reagans doesn't have a win this season. I mean, he's only started 3 times, but, doesn't have a win on this. He's 0-1 as the quote-unquote ace of the staff, and Seth Lugo has a couple of wins. But that's just sort of how the breaks go in baseball. But the offense now, each and every night out, is complimenting the starting staff in that, hey, if the starting staff struggles, the offense can turn it around even against a really good starting pitcher in Javier 2 nights ago, and then their bullpen. And to be able to get the runs there, get the 4 runs when they were down 3.
They are in every single game, which is all you can ask for.
Yep.
And again,
Makes
they
it
don't
fun.
they don't have a weakness right now.
Yeah.
Like I know the bullpen was to start the season, but I think we all expected the bullpen to start turning it around. So, with the bullpen finally starting to do what we all thought they were going to do,
Yeah.
what's the Royals' weakness? They can steal bases. They're solid defensively. They're really good offensively. They have phenomenal starting pitching. Now the bullpen's solid. I mean, you're sitting here going, where is their weakness? There's not one part of their of the roster you're going, yeah, well, besides this, they'd be solid.
That's why I looked at it. We talked yesterday with Jack in here and the three of us discussing it, that you look around the American League Central, there's not a team that you go, boy, they're not as good as that team. Yeah, they are. Every single team in the division. All right, wrapping up this hour, we'll talk with Craig Stout coming up at 11 o'clock. In the next segment, we'll talk some Chiefs football with him. Mike Dana re-signing with the Chiefs, what that means, what it means for FAU. Rashee Rice, we know the charges now for him, 6 counts, collision involving injury, 1 count, collision involving serious bodily injury, 1 count, aggravated assault. What's that mean for the Chiefs and their offseason plans, their draft plans? We'll talk about that with Craig Stout as well. We always like to get draft crushes, so we'll see if Craig Stout has a draft crush a couple of weeks before the draft gets here, because the KC Sports Network Draft Guide is out, and it is a fantastic resource to go and look if you are a Chiefs fan, especially with all of the Chiefs-centric and skewed sort of views that are tailored towards the Chiefs, each and every player and their comps and all of that stuff. So we'll talk with Craig Stout about all of those things and more coming up next.
The Zone is presented by Guaranteed Foods, delivering all natural food to Midwestern families since 1958. Enjoy healthier food, more free time, free delivery, and better value. Go to GuaranteedFoods.com.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Sterling Holmes, heading up until 2 o'clock. Dylan Michaels as well. We will talk some football here with Craig Stout, KC Sports Network, kcsn.substack.com, and the KC Laboratory Podcast. Craig, what's up, man? How are you, sir?
I'm doing phenomenally. The NFL Draft is coming up shortly. I'm very excited to see who the Chiefs get to add to their roster here. This is always one of my favorite times of the year.
2 weeks away, man. 2 weeks away and counting. A little bit different experience this year from last year, because we were talking about, where we were going to be, who's going down there, who's going to be a part of it, taking part in everything and just being a part of the experience. But this year, just simply watching it on television, but yet still defending Super Bowl champions. So that's the same.
Yeah, it is the same. It's funny how that works, that they just keep winning this thing, and we get to just consistently talk about how much it's not as fun to pick at pick 32. But hey, rings are great.
No doubt, no doubt. It's the successful tax, and the Chiefs continue to pay it, which is fine. You will exchange that 32nd pick much better than the 31st. So they will be picking dead last in the draft coming up 2 weeks from today. Let's talk about a move that was made a few days ago. Last time you and I talked, it was a discussion we were having about other moves the Chiefs may make, and somebody that was still out there that was a former Chief, but former Chief by a few weeks, and that is Mike Danna. They bring him back 3 years, $24 million. What's your reaction and takeaway in view of the Chiefs not only bringing back Mike Danna, but it's a multi-year deal, and the value certainly seems to be there.
Yes, absolutely. When we had talked about this, Jason, it was always kind of framing it within the context of probably a one-year deal. You bring him back. We've seen this team do that with guys like Derek Nottie recently, Jet McKinnon, where it's just kind of like, hey, we like you on the roster. We want to keep you on the roster, but we're not making a long-term commitment. So I was surprised when I saw the 3-year deal, but a pleasant surprise. Mike Danna does everything right. Like, you listen to Joe Cullen, Justin Reed, Chris Jones, Drew Tranquill, Nick Bolton, any of those guys, you listen to him talk, or you listen to him talk about Mike Danna, and the resounding thing is, when we turn on the tape, he's always in the right gap. He's always doing the right thing. He's always executing at the very highest technical level, and it's why he's translated so well to the NFL. Not the biggest guy, not the most athletic guy, but a technically sound, does everything right sort of guy. And as they brought in this youth movement on defense, as they brought guys around, you need guys that are, showing up to practice and doing everything exactly right, showing up to games and doing everything exactly right, exemplifying what it means for Joe Cullen as a defensive lineman. You don't think that Felix and Uzomah, B.J. Thompson, Truman Jones, these guys that are young guys on the roster, you don't think that they're watching Mike Danna and going, oh, wow, that's exactly how I need to do things. That's why you bring a guy like this back in. And the fact that they could get him for $8 million APY, I know that it sounds like a lot, but here over the next couple of years, that's going to be such a small percentage of the cap. It's not going to preclude them from drafting another guy if they need to, adding another guy if they need to, or let's say Felix Uzomah takes over that role this year, and all of a sudden you feel really comfortable with him as a starting level pass rusher. Guess what? Mike Danna's salary is one that you're like, oh, man, we're paying a whole bunch of money for him to be a backup to Felix. You're comfortable with that amount of money for what he brings to the team on early downs, what he can bring as a sub-rush guy, both inside and outside. It just made all the sense in the world to bring this guy back. Getting him for 3 years, $24 million. I'm just over the moon about that move.
Yeah, I love it as well. I like they brought him back, and I think he's a really good player. I didn't know what the market would be. I sort of disagreed a little bit with the thought of like he's going to be priced out of the Kansas City Chiefs. And my view was I thought the Chiefs would value him more than other teams would value him, because I think some teams, and maybe even whether it be fans or analysts, that would look at it and go, hold on. You're getting a defensive end that has a career 17 sacks. You're getting a defensive end whose career high is 6.5 sacks, and you're paying him how much money? Like, that doesn't seem to be the price of doing business. Whereas the Chiefs know, move him inside, move him outside. There may not be a team that wants to use a defensive end the way the Chiefs and Joe Cullen and Steve Spagnuolo use Mike Danna. And if you're going out and paying big money for a defensive end, you're probably wanting that guy to be your every down defensive end, be a guy that's going to rush the passer, impact the passing game. And Mike Danna does a lot of really good things. He does a lot of things really well. There isn't one particular thing that he's just simply a stud at. He's never going to get Josh Allen money that we saw, the absurdity that came down yesterday. He's never going to get that. So I was a little surprised that, Mike Danna is going to be gone. I don't know, Craig, if the market came back to the Chiefs or this is what the market was, and the Chiefs told Mike Danna, hey, once we get the Snead deal done, this is the contract we'll offer you. If you want to sign that one, great, because he said he chose the Chiefs, and I tend to believe there's that element of it, all things being equal. This is the contract. This is comparatively speaking to what I might get on the open market with other teams. I've looked at it. My agents looked at it. And now that the money is freed up with L'Jarius Sneed, to me, it's not a surprise that Edwards-Helaire, Carson Wentz, and then Mike Dana pretty quickly after that, once it officially went through, were signed.
Yeah, that's one of those that, I think the last time we talked, Jason, we were talking about Hollywood Brown and how, he accepted less money. I put that in quotes or something like that. Could be an incentive base. If he's got a contract on the table from another team that says, okay, well, if you get 7 sacks, now all of a sudden there's all this incentive money. Mike Dana might be looking at that and going, you know what? I'd rather take the guarantees. I'd rather take, the devil I know here at home. I know that the team that I'm going to sign it with in Kansas City is going to love me, going to appreciate me, going to use me in my best way. I get to play next to Chris Jones and sometimes make him gas sound because I do everything right. And on top of that, they're taking care of me. $8 million is not, a small amount of money for a defensive end. I believe Jadeveon Clowney, what was it, $9-10 million this year or something like that. It's not like he's lagging very far behind maybe that middle tier of pass rusher here, and you get to stay in Kansas City. Like, that's the part that matters to him. That's the part that really kind of, moves the needle for him. I remember him coming out in the draft. I was very fortunate, and I got to interview him shortly after he was drafted. And it was just, you talk to so many of these collegiate guys, and not to say that, it's wrong, but they're like, hey, trying to use that second contract, trying to make myself the best player possible so I can maximize my value. Mike Dana's, the things that he was projecting were all about, hey, I want to be able to play everywhere. I want to be able to make other players better. I want to be the guy that's in the film room that's really knowing exactly what needs to do. I want to be the guy that in a big moment is in the right place at the right time and makes a play and therefore gets us off the field. It was less about the personal achievements. It was more about the team achievement. So Chiefs are still taking care of him. Don't get me wrong, but I think his priorities are certainly different or a little bit shifted from maybe some of the guys that are just like, hey, I'm going to hit the open market. I'm going to get as much money as I possibly can. He is a lot more comfortable. I want to stay in Kansas City with Joe Cullen, playing next to Chris Jones. That maximizes me as a player, and it helps me maximize the team.
Craig Stout's our guest, kcsn.substack.com. The KC Laboratory podcast. Should also let people know the KC Sports Network Draft Guide is out, available to download. It is an incredible resource. Yes, I mean, it's one of the I don't think it's I don't think you guys would take offense in me saying that, there are two resources I use, the KC Sports Network Draft Guide and The Beast with Nate Tice. And Nate Tice, it's sort of overall. But if you're a Chiefs fan, the KC Sports Network Draft Guide is an absolute go-to and must-have. It is awesome. So I love that it's out and can start looking through everything and see how the team fits are, see the different guys in there that Matt's guy and Kent's guy and things like that. I love seeing the guys that they particularly like. One of those last year that were a couple of guys at KC Sports Network who they really liked was Felix and Udike Uzama. They took him at the end of the first round. It was a great story. Hometown kid. He was at the draft, attending it just as a fan, walking around because it was happening in his backyard, right? And last year was a slower burn and wondering, what the development was going to be. What percentage do you think, and maybe it's 0% to you, I don't think it's 0%, but what percentage do you think the Mike Dana bringing him back on a 3-year deal is about a concern of FAU being an every down defensive lineman or defensive end or filling the role of a first-round draft pick defensive end?
I mean, I don't think that it's a very high percent that the Felix role, influences Mike Dana. Now, certainly, if Felix had showed up last year, all of a sudden, pops off with 12 sacks, plays the run really excellently, sure. They're going to be focused on, hey, we feel comfortable with the guys that we have in-house. I think it may be more to the fact of Charles Omenihu is hurt. He's not going to be around this year. He wasn't around for part of last year. They don't know that they can count on that guy being a guy that really fits into the rotation and continuing to build on the veteran depth of this. You can never have too many pass rushers. Mm-hmm. Mike Dana has now been a part of 2 defensive lines that have helped get to the passer at a greater clip than all but about 7 teams in the NFL over the past 2 years. Like, I know that we think of Steve Spagnuolo's defense, we think of the blitz element, we think of how he's getting pressure with all the exotic looks that he brings and things like that, but he still rushes 4 the majority of the time, and that 4-man rush gets home. And it, yes, a lot of people think that Chris Jones is a part of that, but a lot of the stunts, a lot of the games that they play with Mike Dana are so effective. We used to joke all the time that Mike Dana on the spike, on the tech stunt, which is a defensive tackle looping over a defensive end to rush from the outside. We see Chris Jones do it all the time. He gets free. Chris Jones gets free because of the attention that Mike Dana has. We used to joke that Mike Dana, you were kind of in the damned if you do, damned if you don't, because if you don't peel off to pick up Chris Jones, he's getting to the quarterback. And if you leave Mike Dana on a one-on-one, as the Los Angeles Chargers will tell you time and time again, Justin Herbert will, he's going to win on the spike. So you've got to have a player that can execute those sort of things at a high level to free up your super, elite pass rusher, that you can align him wherever you want. If Chris Jones decides my matchup is at defensive end this week, then guess what, Mike? In some packages, you're playing 3 technique this week, and you've got to have a guy that can do that. And so, yes, Felix matters in this equation because he's going to be a factor moving forward. I fully expect that in the dime packages and sub packages, he's going to be a good pass rusher for this team because he's one of the few guys that can win quickly along with Chris Jones. But you've got yourself a guy that can be the complement to your biggest and best defensive investment at this point. So I think it's more tied to, we've got Chris back, we're going to be leaving L'Jarius Sneed out of the equation. We need to make sure that this pass rush stays as good as it can be, because we're going to have some vulnerabilities in the secondary that we didn't have before simply by moving from L'Jarius Sneed. So I think it's more tied to that than specifically tied to, worrying about the development of the first-round pick last year.
Craig Stott is our guest, kcsn.substack.com, the KC Laboratory Podcast. We know the charges for Rashee Rice. I'm not a lawyer. I don't claim to be one. I'm not going to even discuss of what it may mean legally. What I do think it means is there will be, and this was a guess anyway, or what people thought anyway, but I don't think anything changed with the charges. There will be some sort of a suspension. I'd be shocked if there wasn't, whether that's 2 games, 4 games, 6 games. I'll probably land on expecting 4. If it's more than that, okay, a little disappointed. If it's, but understand it. If it's less than that, okay, a little surprise. Does this change in your mind the path, the strategy for the Chiefs moving forward a couple of weeks from now, whether it's day 1, day 2, day 3, in decisions they make around wide receiver, with still the unknown of what the suspension will be for Rashee Rice, but with this, the charges coming down, at least from those that understand it way more than I do, there's at least a feeling that this will be wrapped up before the season starts.
Yeah, it definitely sounds that way. Obviously the charges are brought. He had, 24 hours to turn himself in. He has kind of posted on Instagram. His lawyers basically said the same thing, that, he's complying with everything here. So I would expect that we're going to see that he's going to turn himself in. This is going to undergo due process. So, yes, I'm with you. I'm not a lawyer. I don't want to dive much further into it than that. But from a suspension standpoint, I don't know that this moves the needle any differently than it would have. If it's 2 to 4 games, I don't think the Chiefs are supremely worried about what they can field this year, because, again, they've done this in the past. We've had multiple times over the past several years where you've had a player that was a feature or a significant part of one side of the ball that had to miss some time, and they didn't go out and make a reactionary move. Now, I know that the inevitable thing that everybody's going to think there is the Tyreek Hill thing, back when they drafted Mecole Hardman, and I totally get that, and I think that maybe they thought that might have been a more significant thing than it actually turned out to be. So I think that there's some dissimilarities there. What I'm really keeping an eye on is, does this, kind of make the trust level from Andy Reid reduced? Because we've seen what that looks like if Andy Reid doesn't trust a player anymore, doesn't trust them to handle their business off the field, they are done with them very, very quickly. Now, that's not to say that Rashee Rice is going to get cut by any means, but not a guy that they're potentially, targeting for a second contract here. So why wouldn't you, in that scenario, try and focus, very hard on making your wide receiver room a little more built out with youth, a little more built out with some depth, and a really good wide receiver class. We say that every year, but it just makes more sense to insulate yourself against some of that. They don't want to be in a scenario where now all of a sudden their best wide receiver, the guy that they are going to throw volume targets at outside of Hollywood Brown, but more specifically in 2025 and 2026, they need more bodies there. So I can see from a draft perspective that maybe, the target becomes, okay, we've got a guy that we're very interested to hey, we've got a guy that we're very interested in, and we might have to circle back again. Maybe we look again at round 3 or round 4 or something like that and add another body to the room just to make sure that we raise the floor enough to where if Rashee Rice has to miss time, if we lose that trust level in him, if we don't think he's part of the future going forward, we're at least taking a couple more bites at the apple on offense to try and insulate ourselves from getting into a position like they were at the beginning of last year where that wide receiving core was just absolutely letting them down right and left. We've seen Brett Veach be aggressive in his corrections. I would fully expect that if he's hearing from Andy Reid, which again, put the playbook in the car. Like that's probably something that Andy Reid is just as upset about. You can't do that, man. You got to keep that with you. So
it's like leave the gun, take the cannolis.
Exactly.
Leave the weed, take the playbook.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, leave all that there. Don't leave the playbook there because there's precious cargo in that. So I'm looking at it more from a trust level than anything. I think that's going to crop up very soon because, this wide receiving group is good in the draft, but there's a ton of value in the first 3 rounds. So if they take a couple bites of the apple early, I think that tells you exactly what they think about Rashee Rice.
What do you think they do at tackle for this team? It's still an open, spot, and Donovan Smith is out there, and I think that's been sort of an easy, they can just go and get Donovan Smith. I compared a little bit to a couple of years ago when there was a defensive end question, and all summer it was like, well, they'll just go get Melvin Ingram. Well, it's kind of understood they're going to get Melvin Ingram, right? Well, they're going to bring back Melvin Ingram, so we should stop. Oh, Melvin Ingram signed somewhere else. Oh, wait, now what do they do? And that was after the draft also, so we saw what was happening, and they still had a hole there. How do you think they address this? Is it a Donovan Smith? Is it a move up in the first round when people are talking about wide receiver? Maybe it's for tackle. Do they address it in a couple of different spots and maybe throw some numbers at the offensive line this go-around with maybe what is expected a more offensive-focused draft?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would be, at this point, I'm going to be shocked if there are as many defenders as offensive players drafted from the Chiefs this year. It would be completely shocking to me if that happens. Obviously, that might be what the value is, but I do see offensive tackle and a trade up as a thing that could happen. Marius Mims is this guy that's kind of a very nebulous offensive tackle. Yeah. His tape is elite. He's just barely played. And so do the Chiefs feel comfortable in a guy like that? Do they feel comfortable in moving up for a potentially elite talent that just doesn't have very many reps yet? And you turn around and you hand him to Andy Heck and you say, work your magic, which he typically always does. I could see a move like that, a move for Guyton. There's a couple of guys in the first round that I could see. Second-round guys, Patrick Paul from Houston that has Andy Reid's requisite arm length. I believe he has 36-inch vines. That's, Andy Reid is immediately perking up with that sort of thing. There's a couple of different players that I could see them targeting in the draft, but I think much like last year, their fallback plan is going to be, hey, when we get out of day 2 of the draft, we don't feel comfortable with any of these players as a starting level player for us. So let's turn around and let's see what's on the veteran market. Let's see if a Donovan Smith wants to come back and play. Again, I said this on the lab the other week, but, Donovan Smith is one of the youngest offensive tackles that's available in free agency. And I know that we all think of him as just kind of this elder statesman because he's been around for a long time, but he's 30. He still has some years in front of him. Yes, he wasn't fully healthy all last year, but when he was healthy, he looked pretty good. So get him healthy, bring him back in. Mekhi Becton is the youngest guy that's still on the market right now. go and try and get a guy like that instead. Take a couple of bites at the apple, bring some competition in for Wanya Morris, and make sure that you're not just turning around and going, okay, kid, this is yours. You got to push him a little bit. But I do think they're going to wait until after the draft. The pocket's got to be right. They got a trade-up move where they can go get a Mims or a Guyton or somebody like that they're absolutely in love with. I think they'll do it. I think that that's really where they want to spend a lot of capital, is making sure that offensive line is built. I mean, again, I figure they're going to take interior offensive linemen later in the draft just because of the contracts that they have expiring next year. But I think that they really want to focus on building that through the draft, not spending on guards and tackles and free agency if they don't have to. They did last year with Jawan Taylor. Who will see? We'll see on that if they regret that move or if they feel comfortable with that move. But I can see offensive tackle being one of the two trade-up possibilities with wide receiver, specifically in the first round, also in the second round. And if they don't have the offensive tackle there, I feel a lot more comfortable in their ability to go after the draft and just say, okay, Donovan, let's run this back. Let's go get you another ring. You and Wanya have a relationship already, so we're cool with all of this.
Last one for you. Last time, this will be the last time we talk before they draft. So the next time we have a conversation will be post-draft. Do you have a draft crush that's developing for a couple of weeks you would like to see the Chiefs take, whether that's in the first round all the way through seventh, or heck, undrafted priority free agent?
I would love if I had a draft crush for you that's an undrafted free. Let me take that back. Carson Field, running back out of UCLA, bring him in here with Isaiah Pacheco. Big dude that has decent-ish vision. I would be fine with him as a UDFA. As far as draft crush, a lot of guys that are in the mid-rounds that I really, really like a lot. A lot of the early round guys that we've got Mason McCormick out of South Dakota State University, interior offensive lineman. I would love if the Chiefs were able to land a guy like that. He's just going to be able to play so many different positions. I love him. Another interior offensive lineman a little bit later, Hunter Norzad out of Penn State. He played center for Penn State for the past couple of years, but he played 4 years at Citadel as a left tackle. And Andy Reid loves those guys that have that versatility. So both those two guys for offensive linemen that I like. I love Malik Washington, wide receiver out of Virginia. I think he makes so much sense for what the spacing concept and the way that you can sink into a zone. I think he would just be an elite add for the Chiefs. And then Ryan Watts, who is a free safety / cornerback out of Texas, an insane testing cornerback that has safety and corner experience. Stop me if you've heard that before as a day free target. The Chiefs love kind of picking guys up like that. So those are my four guys that I'm really looking at. The first three, I love the way that they play their game. Ryan Watts is more of a, hey, they've gambled on this profile before. I would love for them to take another gamble on it again.
Awesome. I love that you came up with four of them and a priority free agent.
Awesome. All of those round 3 or later.
That's awesome, man. And unfortunately, you haven't given this much thought, so that's too bad, Craig. Craig Stout, kcsn.substack.com, the KC Laboratory Podcast. Craig, you're the man, as always. Really appreciate the time, brother. Enjoy the draft in a couple of weeks, and we'll catch up soon.
You too. Talk to you later.
Absolutely. There's Craig Stout, kcsn.substack.com. Check out the draft guide. He's got 4 different draft crushes, 2 of them interior offensive linemen, 1 a wide receiver, and 1 a cornerback / safety, including he gave us Carson Steele, the running back from UCLA, as a priority free agent, a bigger guy, 6 foot 230, as someone that he may see the Chiefs bring in. I've sort of been looking at the whether it's not necessarily smaller running backs. It doesn't to me, the size of the running back hasn't really mattered. Size doesn't matter. That's what I've heard about running backs. It's more the speed. It's how quickly they get places. And I've got Keelan Robinson's a guy that I like as a priority free agent just because he runs a 4.4, has a 1.55 10-yard split, so he gets there fast and he's fast. I want that for the Chiefs. I want them to find somebody that has a burst that gets there quickly. Enough with the methodical, slow, let me turn around and survey and Pacheco looks like he's running fast or running. It's just because he hates the ground. And Edwards-Helaire does a nice job, but, they don't have that guy that can just turn, boom, run, get there fast. We'll see if they take somebody like that or as a priority free agent. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, continue rolling along. Let's continue with our NFL football, our Chiefs football discussion. We'll do that coming up next here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Thank you to Craig Stout joining us, breaking down the Chiefs and the draft coming up. 913-912-4810 is the text line. We talked a lot of Royals in the first hour. We also talked about Scott Drew turning down the interest from Kentucky, staying at Baylor. He and his family deciding that was in the best interest for them, that they did not want to leave. Pretty comfortable. The only place his kids have ever known is Waco, so they are staying there. Kentucky is now on to the next one, trying to figure out who their next coach is. And Scott Drew essentially is showing that he's a lifer at Baylor because in this same coaching carousel, he turned down Louisville and Kentucky for their head coaching jobs. He ain't going anywhere, which is also, by proxy, great news for Kansas State because the flirting with Baylor and Jerome Tang doesn't have to take place. Baylor gets to keep their coach. They have God on their side, according to Chip Gaines, and that's why Scott Drew stayed at Baylor. That was news that came out right before we started the show at 10 o'clock. We've talked a lot of Royals in the first hour as well, and certainly talking to Craig Stout there about the Chiefs and a good portion of that conversation about Mike Dana, what it means, bringing him back, the entire defensive line returning. I mean, Chris Jones, Mike Dana, Derek Nottie, Mike Pennell, Turk Wharton, Malik Herring, B.J. Thompson, who they drafted last year, obviously FAU, part of that. Like bringing back, like we talked about, boy, they have Karlaftis, FAU, and B.J. Thompson are the only guys they have under contract on the defensive line once this season ends. And now they've got everybody that they had a year ago back on this defensive line. I don't know if that's an indication of what they think of the NFL draft, if they think of the interior defensive line, or they think of the defensive ends. To bring those same guys, Omenihu they didn't have to bring back, but
sure.
You get the point.
Yeah.
Because going into this offseason, it was they have Karlaftis, FAU, and B.J. Thompson, and an injured Omenihu. So I didn't mean to omit Omenihu, but it was the injury. We didn't know how long he was going to be out to start the season, and it could be a little bit like last year. I mean, he missed the first 6 weeks of the season with suspension. He may miss the first 4 weeks with PUP, depending on his progress and his rehab, which then you get a more extended look at FAU with an expectation of what to expect from Mike Dana, Karlaftis, Chris Jones, etc. So maybe that's an indication of what they think of the defensive line and defensive end draft class in the pockets that they'll be drafting, because that's different. The pockets they'll be drafting as opposed to, well, there aren't any really great defensive ends. Oh, really? No, there's some good defensive ends in the class. There also might be some secondary ones, but it might be, well, these guys are going to be mid-second rounders, early second rounders. We're picking at 64. We can't really afford to move up if it's for a defensive end because we've taken defensive end the last couple of years. If we're going to spend extra capital, it's probably tackle or wide receiver we're going to spend it on.
Well, and it's also, you have Darius Robinson from Mizzou, but is he going to be there? He's been falling down.
Mm-hmm.
Are you getting a little too... With Fisk at 32, is he more of a, late 30s? Where do you view him? I mean, you're right. Are you going to be reaching for a guy there?
Mm-hmm.
Or do you even want to spend another first-rounder there?
Or did bringing Mike Dana back give you the flexibility that you don't have to think defensive end in this draft? Because you took B.J. Thompson as a project last year.
Sure.
And FAU was a first-round draft pick. You'd like to see him step up and play some good football this year if the opportunity should be there for him. He's got to seize that opportunity.
And also, I thought interior defensive line made a lot of sense. You want someone next to Chris Jones who's more of a game record. Derek Nottie, he's fine. Turk Wharton or whatever, he's fine. Mike Pennell, I know we all love him because of what he's done in playoff runs. I'm a huge Mike Pennell supporter. I was the previous stint he had here in Kansas City. I'll still be a Mike Pennell supporter, but for all 17 games and then through the playoffs, I don't know if that's really your game plan.
Mike Pennell, see you in November.
Yes.
Come
the
on in November,
phantom
buddy.
IL stint, then come on through.
Let's go.
So I'm sitting here going, well, T'Vondre Sweat would have been a lovely pick, especially at 64.
Yeah.
But then you have the DWI. And do you want another car incident?
Nope.
No, you don't.
That's for the Chiefs. Not sure you can do that. Now, he didn't leave the scene of the crime. The other driver did, which is odd. Since he got in the car accident, he was the one that was drinking and driving, but the other car, the driver left, so maybe they were doing the same thing,
sure.
This collision. But you hear Sweat, DUI, and the driver leaves the scene of the crime. You're like, what? Oh, wait, he stayed. Well, at least he's got that going for him because you leave the scene of the accident, you ain't even on the Chiefs. Fifth round. Why is this guy still here? Don't know, but we ain't taking him. We're not drafting him. Not with the BS they've got going on right now. So that news, you're right.
But before that, I'm going, well, the Chiefs could get, let's just say, for example, hypothetically, Ladd McConkey, 32, and then Tavondre Sweat, 64 years, and you're going, phenomenal.
Okay, yeah.
And let's even say, if you want to go...
No idea who's going to play left tackle, but certainly,
I'll
yes.
please you KU fans, Dominique Pooney at 96. Now, I don't think that he's necessarily going to be a left tackle in the NFL, but there is your super sub, your souped-up Cam Irving, if you will. Your souped-up Andrew Wiley.
Put Nas on Cam Irving.
But...
Got some aftermarket wheels on Cam Irving. Got a new Bose speaker set with some with the
sub, the
12-inch subs in the trunk.
Hydraulics.
Hydraulics.
JBL,
That's right. Look at this bouncing. They got some Spreewells as they're spinning while you come to the stop.
Dude, great shoes. Great pull from you right there.
Thank you.
But like, I don't know where the Chiefs go at left tackle. I don't know if it's in the draft because I don't know if they're getting high enough to get a guy that you feel comfortable with. I'm still going to be the dude screaming from the mountaintops that I believe in Wanya Morris, and the reason being is, let me lay this out. I'm not going to say Wanya Morris is going to be an all-pro left tackle, but I think he's a serviceable...
Cut that to where we just hear Sterling say Wanya Morris is going to be an all-pro left tackle.
He's going to be serviceable, and what I saw last year, people keep focusing on the negatives. How often do you see rookie tackles, even who are drafted top 5, have these low points? Andrew Thomas was almost ran out of New York his first year's rookie season, and now he's one of the best tackles in football. Rookie tackles, it's a massive development, a massive change. What we did see was the lows, yes, but we saw some highs against some very good pass rushers. What you do from your rookie season to your sophomore year and your junior year going forward, second, third year, I should say, in the NFL is you'll see the lows start washing out more, and the norm will start being either the highs or the average reps. I think you'll start seeing that more with Wanya Morris going forward. I think we're judging him too harshly on the rookie season against Khalil Mack, where Khalil Mack had a resurgence last year. Well, let's judge him on the average. Let's judge him more on what were the average reps from him going forward. I think that'll be the norm for him going into his second year.
I think any of the negatives with Wanya Morris have to be taken with a grain of salt with what you're talking about. I looked at Wanya Morris and thought, okay, there were some real positives there. And if you go into the offseason and you've got some things to improve on, if they had to go in this season with Wanya Morris, you know where the deficiencies were last year. You saw him up close and personal. It wasn't that he was just filling in from time to time. Donovan Smith went down. You had to then play Wanya Morris at left tackle. They figured out how to get around it, but you saw the issues that were there when he played left tackle. Can you improve on those if those are the things you focus on? Yep. MJ Melendez, your issue was playing outfield. You couldn't do it. You were terrible. He goes in the offseason and all he does is work on left tackle or outfield. Okay, great. Now you're better as an outfielder, and you're not taking your defensive efficiencies to the plate with you, and now you're better hitter. Wanya Morris, here's your issue. Here's an issue. Here's an issue. You go into the offseason, Andy Heck, whatever you're doing in the weight room, the training, you work on those things because you may need to play left tackle. And if you do, can you improve the floor of your deficiencies while still having some of the things that made you a pretty good player? Because run blocking was pretty decent for Wanya Morris, where that was lacking with Donovan Smith.
What I see with Wanya Morris is a good left tackle who can also play right, and a versatile player who, if they do not like the Kansas City Chiefs, like the Juwan Taylor contract, eventually, well, is Wanya Morris going to be your right tackle of the future, and Juwan Taylor's your right tackle of the now? Which I think there's also a possibility there. I just don't see the Chiefs having the ability to get up and get a quote-unquote sure thing. And again, sure thing rookies at tackle, even Alt, for example. Like Andrew Thomas was a top 5 draft pick at left tackle. He was a sure thing. Not good his rookie year. Like if the Chiefs were able to get Alt, I think people are going to have such high expectations. They're not getting Alt, by the way, but just a first-round left tackle, such high expectations when that's not the reality of the position transitioning from college to the NFL. Now, again, I would still like to see Donovan Smith back. I think that's actually the name that I would go after when you saw what Tyron Smith got for the Jets. Chiefs, sorry, you're not giving up to $20 million for a oft-injured, again, all-pro when he's there, but oft-injured left tackle. Donovan Smith, quite frankly, I think did a fine enough job, and he's a guy who I don't think is going to clamor you have to make him the starter, while some other players are going to say, if I'm not the starter, I'm going to be I'm going to be pissed off. I don't think you're going to see that with Donovan Smith. And by the way, you hate seeing injury, but was that almost best case scenario for the Chiefs last year?
You got a chance to see Wanya Morris.
What if Donovan Smith again? If he played the entire season, the Chiefs win a Super Bowl, we're all thrilled. But best case scenario, again, we don't want him to be injured. But best case scenario was you won the Super Bowl and you got to see an extended look at Wanya Morris. Going back to your whole conversation of now you know his deficiencies.
Yeah.
Now you know what they need to work on in game action, not OTAs. Not training camp, not preseason, but actual regular season action against Khalil Mack, the Bosa brothers, or at least a Bosa. Like you saw it against legitimate pass rushers. This is huge for Kansas City going forward.
Yeah, the Rashee Rice issue, which we'll get into and continue to talk about as it gets closer to the draft. We're 2 weeks away. How much that does change the Chiefs' draft strategy. But there's no doubt there is a hole at left tackle. And what I've talked about is if I had my choice, if people are saying you trade up to get somebody, if that's what the Chiefs are doing, what's your choice? They trade up to get a number one wide receiver or a guy that plays left tackle and you feel good about plugging in and playing him at left tackle for the next 5-6 years. Give me the left tackle. Give me that guy that you trade up and get. Because while I do believe Rashee Rice will be suspended, I feel good about Rashee Rice moving forward, and there are other good receivers, even if it's like this guy can be a high number 2 receiver in the NFL. Okay, I get him at 64, and I get Rashee Rice, this guy for this year, Hollywood Brown, but I get a guy that can be a starting left tackle for the next 5-6 years. Awesome. Great. I'm not trying to ignore the wide receiver position, and clearly they aren't doing that, but I also don't want to have a revolving door at left tackle when Joe Thuney might be on the last year of his contract and don't know about Trey Smith or Creed Humphrey moving forward. I don't want to have to keep integrating a left tackle without an all-pro left guard to help him out along the way, because that has certainly helped, whether that be Donovan Smith or Wanya Morris, having Joe Thuney there. So I would love, if the Chiefs are going to trade up, then go trade up and get, if Latham or I mean, I don't know if Amarius Mims, if they've got him as a first-round grade and he's sitting there at 21, 22, you go and get him. Or do the Chiefs feel comfortable in Wanya Morris, and do they feel comfortable bringing back a Donovan Smith if you can, grab a Kingsley Suamataia at the end of the first round? Or trade back and maybe get Kingsley in the early second round, a guy who's got all the traits.
Yeah.
Everything but raw. And you can slowly integrate that guy at left tackle, and then all of a sudden you may have your left tackle of the future that you didn't have to trade up and get. But he ain't a guy you're going to draft and then say he's now our left tackle moving forward. Those are the guys that are going to go in the top 10, 15 picks of the draft.
Yeah, and even like a Jordan Morgan who's been, if you do a lot of mock drafts, he's been maybe there at 32. He's kind of on the cusp at the end of that first round. He does feel like he feels like a former Chief. Like the finesse left tackle, if you will.
Yeah.
Right? Doesn't he feel more, because the Chiefs' offensive line has had this transformation of a finesse offensive line to more of that nasty streak with Joe Thuney, Creed, and Trey Smith, obviously.
Yeah.
But on the
Trey Smith in there has brought the bleep you.
Yeah. But when you're looking at a guy like Jordan Morgan, do the Chiefs want to get a guy who's maybe more mobile, who might not be as great in the run blocking situation, but more of a pass blocker? That does seem to fit more of the Chiefs' game plan.
I would tell you with the 32-inch arms, he may not even be on their board.
Correct. Correct.
With 32-inch arms, they may not even know who Jordan Morgan is. They don't even have the name next to it. It just says 32. Okay, we're moving on. Fautanu, who people may think may move to guard. But that's a guy who's the arm length, the size, the athleticism is good enough. He's an older prospect. He's, I think like by the time the season starts, he'll be 24 years old. But I don't think he'll be there in the 20s either. So, that's also that case. We do need to take a time out. We'll come back. We'll wrap this out. We'll talk with Daniel Harms, RJR Football, coming up at noon, and get his thoughts on some of these same conversations we're having and where he think the Chiefs may go, what position they may attack. I also wonder if he thinks this is going to be more of an offensive-centric draft. We've seen Brett Veach spend so many resources on the defense, especially the first 4 rounds or so. Is the expectation maybe that will be the offensive side, especially with the re-signing of so many people on the defensive side of the football? We'll take a timeout, come back. More Zone next. baseball. Looking forward to the conversation with him. So smart as he breaks down the draft and scouting and things like that. We'll talk with him about what he wants to see from the Chiefs 2 weeks away. Huge draft ahead of the Chiefs. What do they do at left tackle? What do they do at wide receiver? Are they done on the defensive side? I can't imagine that being the case. But where else may they look? Is it time to start drafting higher in the draft to tight end, to think about life without Travis Kelce? Or did Travis Kelce resting at the end of the season and looking like he did in the postseason make you think, well, actually, he sort of looks like the old Travis Kelce more? So maybe they're just a little bit of rest, maybe a little more load management for Travis Kelce. Maybe those injuries early in the season were a bigger deal than we thought. Daniel Harms coming up next. And DeChambeau having a good opening round. Woodland struggling. And coverage starting at 3 o'clock on the bigger TV. I mean, you can watch it online because the Masters is so pretentious, they actually don't want you to watch the tournament. You can't watch? Oh, too bad. Oh, at 3 o'clock, feel free to tune in at 3. Let's talk some football. You know what? The NFL wants you to watch everything, every day of the calendar. The NFL is on. They own it all. Daniel Harms does an awesome job of covering the Chiefs and prospects and the draft and all of those things. RGR Football, he joins us here in the zone. Daniel, what's up, man? How are you, sir?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me on. And that whole intro minute was a rough go because the music got me all relaxed for the Masters, and then you talk about how you can't watch it, which is so frustrating because I went to turn it on this morning and I'm like, oh, I get live from the Masters, just a bunch of guys talking about, well, we have guys teeing off. I can't believe it.
It's unbelievable. And in the background, you just see the patrons, by the way, not the fans. The patrons walking the course, and it's like, oh, I bet they're having fun there. I bet there are guys actually on the course, walking around and actually playing a round of golf. They're telling us about it, right now, but I guess I can go online and check it out. That's awesome. But you know what? If I'm online, I'm probably not watching the Masters. I'm probably doing a lot of other things, like getting ready for the damned NFL draft coming up in 2 weeks, Daniel. You're all over it, man. And so I'm just curious as we start the conversation, this draft class, you agree that it's tackle wide receiver heavy, or is it tackle wide receiver top heavy and the depth may not be there? How do you sort of look at what has been a common theme of this draft is tackles and wide receivers are there?
So I really do think that it is top heavy in both areas. I think wide receivers far deeper. You're going to be able to find guys on day 2, day 3 that contribute. Tackle, specifically left tackle, funny enough, where the Chiefs have kind of a need, is where it's really top heavy and the depth isn't there. There's some really good day 2 right tackles, guys that will play like Roger Rosengarten out of Washington. I think Javon Foster out of Missouri is going to be probably a right tackle in the NFL. You've also got Blake Fisher out of Notre Dame, who's a right tackle. But these guys are going to go on day 2. They're going to be good players. But the Chiefs kind of have a need at left tackle unless they want to finally put into works what they asked Juwan Taylor to come do last year, which is play left tackle. But then they're like, no, let's go ahead and put you at right and figure out left tackle, or if Wanya Morris is ready. We still don't really know what they're going to do there. But there's going to be a ton of offensive linemen drafted in the first round itself. Like I was doing mock drafts for RGR Football the other night on Sunday, and it was a good exercise because 10 offensive linemen went in the first round. 10 of them.
Is that all?
And I'm sitting, yeah, right.
A third of the draft is offensive line. Unbelievable.
I was sitting here. I'm like, okay, well, this is a very unique situation. The Chiefs might find themselves. No one's going to want them to trade up. Typically, you might be able to find an NFC team where you're like, okay, maybe Seattle at 16 if they want to trade back and get some more prospects for maybe after Geno is no longer the quarterback, because they do feel kind of like a good team but a middling team, because I love Geno, but everything else just kind of feels like maybe they're not ready to win yet. So if you can find a team like Seattle where they're like, yeah, we'll trade down, but we want to get some of these, top 100 prospects. Okay, maybe you can finagle that and use that future third that you got from Tennessee Titans to be able to make that happen. But it's going to be tough because there's not a lot of players in the first round. Again, if you sit there at 32 and you see this tackle run start, because the top 10 players, we're going to see quarterbacks, wide receivers. We are going to see, I think, at least one tackle, maybe more, a couple, 1 or 2 defensive players at most, I think, in the top 10. And then from 11 to 20, it is going to be tackle city. It's going to be a ton of tackles. I think they're going to go all the way into 25. There's a ton of teams that can do that. So, yes, there's going to be I only have 3 wide receivers with first-round grades, and those guys are all top 10 players. And that's where you're going to see, all right, well, how are we going to figure this out? Because it's really deep at wide receiver. There's really good options. There's all kinds of players you can get on day 2. Also at 32, if you have like a second-round grade on someone, you can take them there. So really deep at wide receiver. It's a really good offensive line group, but it is extremely top-heavy and very lucrative for those first-round players specifically, because I think all of them at some point are going to be starters soon, like legitimate players in the NFL contributing to teams. So it's tough to be at 32. And like this is the year to get a tackle, and you're like, oh, maybe we're not going to find one.
Well, I mean, it's part of the reason that sort of colors my opinion on when people talk about, should the Chiefs trade up? Can you trade up and get one of these stars? And most of the time, typically, I'm seeing people talk about trading up and getting one of these receivers. And I'm different in my opinion on that if the Chiefs trade up and use extra resources, I would love for them to trade up and get a tackle that they feel like a lot like Trent McDuffie. Like, this guy's got a first-round grade. He shouldn't be here at this spot in the 20s. This guy's got a first-round. We got a top 10 grade on this guy. He shouldn't be here at 16, like you mentioned, Seattle, or 17, 18, whatever it is, or some of these NFC teams in the 20s that probably would have no issue trading with the Chiefs, right? So, that's what if I had my druthers and the Chiefs traded up and used extra resources, I would rather them figure out what has been a little bit of a revolving door the last few years at left tackle and get that figured out, and then know that you have Rashee Rice, and I want to talk to you about that here in a little bit, but suspension or not, he's a good player, and Hollywood Brown at least for a year. And in the second round, if you go wide receiver there, or third round or whatever it might be, I feel like you've got a better chance of finding somebody that can play the wide receiver spot, because, Daniel, last time I checked, there are multiple wide receivers on the field. There's only one left tackle that actually is playing on the field at any given time. So I differ with those that want to trade up and get a wide receiver. I want them to trade up if they're going to do that and get a left tackle.
Yeah, I've come more close to that thinking myself. I was always like a wide receiver first-round guy. And then, I'm still thinking that Chiefs are, going to bring back Donovan Smith. He's just sitting there. He played for him last year. They're probably going to bring him back. And there's also the idea that, maybe this year, like I said, Juwan Taylor, we're going to put you at left tackle this year. Like, if that actually happens, then we have, I guess, if we won't really know until the draft comes, right? If they stay at 32, if there's someone there, they can draft them. But if they go wide receiver in the first round, then maybe their idea is to move Juwan to left, or have him and Wanya kind of battle for left tackle, and then draft a right tackle on day 2. Because, like I said, there are some players there that I think the Chiefs could not only trade up to get, but also stay at 64 and make work there for right tackle. So it really is. It's a tough situation. But if they were to trade up in the first round, I am 100% with you as of right now to go get a left tackle, because after that first round, you're really fighting to find some of these players. There are some developmental guys. There really are. But this first round of tackles might be the best that we've seen ever. It's insanely talented. There's a lot of guys. I know some people think that Troy Fautanu out of Washington may be just an inside guy. I'm telling you right now, I don't care. He's 6'3". He's got 34-plus inch arms. Yeah. He's got excellent movement, footwork, the ability to anchor. Just needs some technical work with his hand usage and placement, and you're good to go. So I don't think he's going to fall. I know there's a lot of people out there that have him as a top 10, top 15 player in this draft, which I don't argue. I won't argue at all. So I just go get one of these difference makers at tackle, because next year you might be looking at the same situation. If you move Juwan Taylor to left tackle, it doesn't work out. If you bring back Donovan Smith, it's not working out. Wanya Morris, he's not figuring it out, and next year is not going to be the same class at all.
Well, let me ask you this. Daniel Harms is our guest, RGR Football. If you had your preference of how the Chiefs go about building their team and the draft resources and working the draft board, would you, let's say it takes like a first and a second, so it's 32 and 64 to move up to like 15 to get one of these tackles, Fashanu from Penn State or Latham, whatever your preference is, right? Whoever you like, Fuaga from Oregon State, somebody there in the top 15, you spend 32 and 64 to get him, but obviously you don't have a second-round pick. Or is it, more palatable for you signing Donovan Smith, drafting, Kingsley Suamataia, and maybe taking like a Malachi Corley in the second round, or Troy Franklin or Ricky Pearsall, again, depending on your flavor that you like from wide receiver. Would you rather them go up and just get that left tackle that's a difference maker, a true first-round grade, or Suamataia as a guy that's sort of a project, but man, he's got some enticing parts about him that just sort of makes you think of what could be, while Donovan Smith is there as a placeholder for him?
Yeah, that's where I'm at. I just did my Kingsley Suamataia film review on RGR Football, And
Nice.
like, I'm a big proponent of him. I think that there's a lot to work with. You guys didn't know he's cousins with Penei Sewell. Some pretty good NFL lineage there. A guy who's an all-pro. Yeah, he's right tackle, but he can play left and right. And that's another thing. He's versatile. He can play left. He played right 2 years ago for BYU. I think he can play all interior positions as well. You can teach him to snap, but you don't really need to do that. So he's got 4 position flexibility along the offensive line and the size. Like, he even looks built like Penei Sewell. They had these big, stocky shoulders. Their backs are filled out, everything like that. He's got all the movement skills, and it really is more of a technical thing. And I don't have any issues personally drafting someone at 32 like Kingsley and letting him sit. I've got no problems doing that because we've seen Donovan Smith, we've seen Wanya Morris play, and the Chiefs just won a Super Bowl with that offensive line construction. So, and yes, I'm not saying don't improve upon those players.
Mm-hmm.
I think Kingsley would be the optimal person if you're going to sit at 32, or even trade up into the 25, 26 area if you can and get him. And it wouldn't be as much as that second-round pick, and then you can come back and get a Javon Baker or someone like that, depending on how you're filling out the wide receiver room. So, if I'm going up, I'm going way up, and I'm going to take next year's first-round pick, and I'm going to go get an Olu Fashanu if he's falling down the board. Like, that's what I'm going to do, because 32 and 32, you know, if I'm thinking about the Chiefs, or 30, 31, 32 next year, isn't worth as much as it is to maybe a lot of other teams need that. And the Chiefs are picking here at 30, 31, 32 the last couple of years, and we've seen them have to reach at times. And if you just go get a guy right now in this draft that you say, well, he's going to be our cornerstone left tackle for decade plus, I'm all in on that.
Yeah, visiting with Daniel Harms, RGR Football, and I agree with that. I'm all in on that as well. The wide receivers, you mentioned you've got like, what, did you say 3 wide receivers with a first-round grade? And that would be, Marvin Harrison Jr., Neighbors, and Odunze. If the Chiefs are sitting at 32, let's say both 32 and 64, they're a player either or around there that you would like to see the Chiefs draft. If you're sitting there, you had talked about, you're leaning more towards, a wide receiver guy going up there in the Chiefs in the first round and getting a wide receiver. Are there names that you're looking at that fit that you want to see with the Chiefs, maybe in that first and second round range, if they take a wide receiver in the first round, or if they go get tackle and then they come back at 64 to come get wide receiver? Who are some of the guys you're looking at that you would like?
So if they're staying at 32, there's a couple names that I have in mind. I know that the big one everyone wants to talk about, and he does fit what they want. He would be like a replacement for Marquise Brown. Next year. I assume Marquise is going to use this year to get a big paycheck, and all well and fine by me. Just ball out while you're here, and then Xavier Worthy from Texas would come in and kind of replace exactly that with almost like the same kind of feel. He's a smaller guy. He's got legitimate speed, as everyone knows, and he tracks the ball maybe better than anybody in this class, in my opinion. Now, he's got some catching problems that are more in terms of concentration. It's got nothing to do, in my opinion, with technique. He attacks the ball with both hands, but he is looking to make a play after the catch, and that is where those concentration drops come in. We saw that with Rashee Rice last year. Those concentration drops, he had like 8 drops last year. But near the end of the season, when he got more comfortable, got more confident in his skill set, those drops kind of went away, and he became a very reliable pass catcher. Now, obviously, with Xavier Worthy, he's worried more about getting hit. He's a little bit smaller, and going to the NFL, I mean, you're gonna take some hits, and he does finish with contact and through contact. I did an Xavier Worthy film breakdown on RGR as well, where it shows a lot of times where if he's nearing the sideline. There was a third down play against Alabama where he's lined up in the backfield, and he just kind of goes out on a swing route to the right-hand side. And both Alabama safety and corner coming downhill to hit him. And instead of going out of bounds, he hits them, and then he spins off and into space. So using the fact that these guys are going to come and try to hit him really hard, maybe not wrap up, he understood that and was able to lower his shoulder and get back into space and get more extra yards. So he's not afraid of contact, but obviously the smaller frame is a worry with injury and things like that. And then from the more of the opposite, the X position, I think Xavier Legette is to Xavier's here.
Yeah, to Xavier.
Legette, while he's an enigma of sorts, not productive at all until last season, and that scares a lot of people. And you look at his route tree, and honestly, coming into the season last year, he wasn't even the number one receiver at South Carolina. The number one receiver went down, I believe, in week 2, and he was like, all right, I'm ready. And he was absolutely ready. He was used as a true downfield weapon. He's got good ball skills, physical guy. Through his route, the stem at the catch point, he's got an incredible strength in his hands, and that shows up multiple times. Just go flip on the Georgia game. You see him doing a whole bunch of stuff where it's manipulating corners a little bit. He's still learning the nuances of moving guys out of his way. If you're running an out route and you have a cornerback sitting on your left-hand shoulder, if you're lined up on the left-hand side, you want to move him to your right so you have more freeway to get out there on that out route, using that leverage, the ability to move guys with your speed, your quickness. And he's still learning the nuances of how to move guys around. But I think that specifically, last year he led NCAA football in yards versus man coverage. So, I mean, that tells you that he's a pretty good physical guy, but if he's not going to, get open with his speed, he will catch the football through contact. And I'm looking at Rashee Rice's kind of trajectory coming out of SMU. He was a big play, I'm going down the field, I'm going to moss guys. And then he was asked to be a zone beater and yards after catch guy in the NFL. They taught him how to read zones much better than he was doing at college, and that would be another area where Xavier could come in and learn, because he's a good man coverage player. You're still learning some of those tools, and being able to sit down in the zone would be the next step in his evolutionary process. But physical, fast guy, I think he would fit as an X-type receiver if you want to keep Rashee Rice in that power slot role. And then the second round, second day 3, there's guys like, I love Ricky Pearsall out of Florida, and he's a two-year player in terms of 2 years ago when he played with Anthony Richardson at Florida, he was averaging 18 yards a catch. Like, this was a completely different skill set of what he was asked to do than this past year. And you look at the dynamics of their offense, they were like, well, we have Anthony Richardson, so go down the field and make a play. And he was like, yes, I'll do that. And this year, their offense was bad. Their offensive line was bad. Their quarterback was bad. And they said, hey, Ricky, we need you to get open. And that's all he did. He just consistently got open. And he is one of those route salesmen. I mean, I like to call them used car salesmen, where they'll just throw everything at the wall, make these corners move, guess, trying to figure out where they're going, and eventually something sticks. And I love that about him. So he's a kind of in terms of first round to second round, people are talking about Ladd McConkey in the first round. I think he would be Ladd McConkey light, because you're going to get him on day 2, not in the first round where you would have to take Ladd. Those guys are get open, move the chains, get some yards after catch if you can. But I wouldn't say that's their skill set. And then you brought up Malachi Corley. I'm lower on him. I would wait till the third round to take a guy like Malachi.
That's what I was sort of thinking, is like, if you feel like he's going to be gone early third round, then I don't know, second round, you may have to do that on a Friday night. But if he's there in the third round, hell, I mean, if he's there in third round, I'm jumping at the chance. At least I am. But you were getting ready to talk about him. What do you think?
No, you're good. I think he kind of fills a lot of what Rashee Rice does, in the sense that he's a tough runner after catch, and he's kind of like Sky Moore. Sky Moore is a better route runner, in my opinion. There's a lot of times where I saw Malachi running right into zone, like right into the defense, not the zone itself, running right into a defender, kind of not understanding. But that comes with coming out of smaller schools. And we saw Sky Moore transition. It didn't really work out.
Yeah, right.
I just think that there are lots of the same player. Obviously, I think Malachi's more explosive after the catch. He'll make guys miss. He'll power through contact a bit better. But that skill set seems to overlap with what they already have in Rashee Rice and Sky Moore, in my opinion. I understand if you want to say, hey, Rashee, go play X this year. All right, now we have – if we don't really like Sky Moore very much, we have new power slot in Malachi Corley. So that makes sense. I'm just trying to figure out what they want to do with Rashee Rice. They want to keep him in that power slot, outside Z kind of role, where they can move him around a little bit. But I would like to see him play on the outside a little bit more. So those are just a couple of guys that come off the top of my head that I think that the Chiefs would be looking at. And again, if the idea is to move Rashee Rice back to the outside where he was in college and play more of that X role, then a guy like Malachi Corley makes a lot of sense. I liken Javon Baker out of UCF to Amon-Ra St. Brown. And I think that that would be, okay, Rasheed, you play the outside. Hey, Javon Baker, you come be Amon-Ra St. Brown for us, and that would help as well. So that's kind of my thought process here.
You mentioned Sky Moore, and we've kept you a while, so we'll let you go here in a second. But
you're fine.
You mentioned Sky Moore. Is there a role for him? Because last year at this time it was like Sky's going to develop, and Kadarius Toney, and do they really need to go and get a wide receiver in the first round? And now it's like hey, you got Hollywood, you've got Rashee Rice, you got whoever they draft, you got Justin Watson. Sky Moore's on the team as well. Like, is there a role for Sky Moore on this team?
Well, barring a suspension to Rashee Rice, that would be what he would do and what he should do. Scheme him up, touches in space. That was the Sky Moore role coming out of college. Mm-hmm. It was. And then they drafted Rashee Rice, and they said, we have a more explosive player here. And they decided, well, we're going to go ahead and use them in that role. And they bumped Sky Moore to more of an outside X receiver. And as we all saw last year, that did not work out.
It's a great fit.
It was not his. It was not a great fit. But that's kind of what I envisioned for Sky coming out of Western Michigan. Get him the ball. Let him get into space. Use his ability to not only use his 10-inch hands, but also to power through contact. He was not a guy that made a ton of people miss, but he finished plays like we saw Rashee Rice do. He was able to get up to speed and then use his stocky frame to finish contact and make, force missed tackles through contact or make guys break arm tackles and things like that. So assuming, again, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't have any real understanding of what's going on right now. Just if you guys follow Drew Davenport, Bird Lawyer on Twitter, these guys have gone through the legal side of it. That's what you should be doing, because I'm nowhere near a legal expert. But I will assume at this point that there is a suspension at least being discussed. Yeah. Okay? I think we can assume that much is safe. So let's just say a couple of games are missed because what happened, and it was an extremely dangerous thing to do and illegal. So let's just assume that a suspension comes down. I think Sky Moore in that Rashee Rice role that we saw last year makes the most sense, where he could actually be a contributor to this team.
Daniel Harms, RGR Football. Daniel, I really appreciate the time, man. Really enjoyed this and love the information. Great stuff. Love following and watching the videos and the prospect breakdowns as well. And certainly look forward to a conversation here in the future as well. Thank you so much for the time today, man.
Always. Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it. I had a great time.
Absolutely. Daniel Harms, good stuff, man. RGR Football, really, really good. So if you don't follow him, what are you doing? Go check him out, and the videos as well that are there, and the draft pick and the prospect breakdowns that he's doing, and the three different names that he sort of brought there: Xavier Worthy, Xavier Legette, and Xavier. Pick any last name you want to. That is weird. That was like Xavier Worthy, and then another guy. I know it's the same first name, Xavier Legette, and Professor X also is a guy that you can think of with the Chiefs. But he said Ricky Pearsall is a name, and that's what I love about the draft season and wide receivers maybe in particular, because there's so many different flavors, and it's kind of like, what do you like? What are you looking at? One of the things that I tend to gravitate towards is how skilled is this guy as a route runner? How good is he as a route runner? Because I feel like that's a sort of earlier translatable skill as a route runner. And some of the best route runners you see coming to the NFL, and it's like, well, this guy's great skill. Man, he's a fantastic polished route runner. Those guys, oftentimes turn out to be like Amon-Ra St. Brown. It was like, well, what can he do here? He's just sort of smaller there, but he might be the best route runner in the game. In all of all the prospects, Amon-Ra St. Brown might be the best route runner. Okay, cool. Jordan Addison, his routes are. Does he have the size? Does he have the true speed to break away? But boy, his ability to get open against college coverage, but the routes are just putting guys on skates. It's one of the things Ladd McConkey does.
Yes.
Ladd McConkey's lack of production scares the hell out of me from an offense that's really good. And he's had other people around him. But, Ladd McConkey, it never had a 1,000-yard season in college. The best season he's had is 700 yards. And out of all the games he's played, almost 40 games, he's got 12 total touchdowns in college. He's had some injury issues that have been there, but his highlights are really fun to watch because he's making some SEC cornerbacks look stupid.
I asked Ladd McConkey that specific question. I asked him, "What do you say when
name
people,
dropper?"
Well, I brought up.
I do. We do need to play some of that.
I brought up the whole conversation with him of, hey, what do you say to people who say your lack of production is nowhere near some of the other elite wide receivers in college football? And he goes, part of that was injury, but also a big part was how many other guys. They were the guy. At Georgia, how many other guys? He was listening to, like Brock Bowers. They run the football, obviously, a ton at Georgia. The plethora of other talent at wide receiver, they just fed everyone. It wasn't just a case of they don't have one guy that they go to. Like, let's just say I guess Texas kind of had a few mouths to feed as well. But that's not the Georgia offense. That's not how Georgia operates. It was a spread out attack, so you're not going to have one guy put up an absurd amount of numbers. I'm with you, though. I go with route running. That, to me, is a big translator, although Sky Moore makes me a little nervous here.
Yeah, I know.
But I do think there's something to say. If they can do it at that level, if they can get open at that level, I will take that over some of the more, well, he ran a 4.2. Well, that's great. Darius Hayward-Bay could run a 4.2. He's not out there making great plays.
Well, that's one of the things, and we'll take a break, but that's one of the things that I think people look at and just assume with the Xavier Worthy is like, oh, he's really fast, but yeah, he's really fast, but he's not John Ross. Like, he's really fast, but he actually has a route tree. He actually, kind of knows what he's doing as a wide receiver, not just a sprinter that they're trying to put some football pads on and say, hey, now go play football. No, he's pretty good. He's one of them. I mean, at Texas, if we're talking about the lack of production for Ladd McConkey, like, you're talking about, Xavier Worthy that had almost 100 more receptions than Ladd McConkey in the same number of games. You're talking about Xavier Worthy that had, almost 1,000 more yards, than Ladd McConkey. You're talking about Xavier Worthy that had 12 more touchdowns than Ladd McConkey in the same number of games. So it's not like just he's just really fast. No, he's productive as a wide receiver, but some of it is injury. And I'm not saying I would take Xavier Worthy over Ladd McConkey because I really like Ladd McConkey, but I think Xavier Worthy can, to a degree, get a bad reputation because he's really fast, and people will look at all these other guys that broke the 40 time. Look at all these other really fast guys. What did they do in the NFL? Well, I think he's better than the other really fast wide receivers we've seen come into the NFL. I think he's more polished. Is he the most polished? No. I mean, he's but he's not Malik Neighbors, right? He's not Rome Odunze. No. But he's also not John Ross. He's not a guy that's just going to be, Darius Hayward-Bay that's just going to run fast down the field, and that's what he brings to the table.
A little bit like Tyreek Hill had that knock against him for how many years? He's just fast. He's just fast. He's just faster than everyone else. No, he's also a great route runner. He can go up and get into all these other things too. But that was actually a knock against Tyreek for a while.
Yeah. And Xavier Worthy tracks the football. I mean, you want to know about tracking the football? Look at your annoyance with Mecole Hardman when the ball's in the air and he's running after it. Okay, so you want to know about the skill of tracking the football? It matters, and he's really skilled at tracking the football. Seems like an obvious for a wide receiver, but it isn't always a wide receiver, especially when it's like, well, this guy can run deep. Yeah, but he can't track the football when he's open. Well, what do you mean? Exhibit A. Exhibit Mecole. And he's fine. I mean, he's a Super Bowl hero. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, continue rolling. More so next. We got some sports or leisure coming up at 1 o'clock, presented by Johnny's Tavern. Got a little coaching carousel category today with the non-movement with the Kentucky job, but some of the movement that's been going on. So got a category that includes coaches changing jobs. So that's in sports or leisure coming up in the 1 o'clock hour. 913-912-4810. You know, we were talking about different preferences with wide receivers and sort of things we look at, things we like that, you know, can shape your sort of view and what the Chiefs should do, who they should bring in. And I think part of it has to do this go around 2 weeks away from the draft and the unknown with Rashee Rice. Because obviously, pretty big deal of what happened. Seen the video, talked about it, and the charges that were brought against Rashee Rice yesterday, 6 counts, collision involving injury, 1 count, collision involving serious bodily injury, 1 count, aggravated assault, same charges for the other driver. That other driver is a current member of the SMU football team. But Rashee Rice is certainly going to have to pay monetarily. I think he's going to have to pay court-wise. And I think it's a safe assumption he'll have to pay suspension-wise with the NFL. I don't know how long that will be. My guess is it'll be 4 games. Less than that, I'd be pleasantly surprised. More than that, I'd be a little surprised, a little, disappointing, but maybe the expectation should be, prepare for 6 and be hopeful it's 4. But I'm counting on 4 games. We don't know what the schedule looks like. We'll find out in a month or so who they'll be playing in the first month of the season. My guess is still the first game of the season is the Texans. I think that is a real Detroit Lions feel to that Thursday night. The team that's coming on and exciting, and they made all these moves in the offseason, and it's a sneaky pick to maybe make some noise in the playoffs. And then you've got obviously the Chiefs and the team that they'll be chasing. But who do they play in those first 4 games, and maybe 6? So how does that change the strategy with the Chiefs? Because I don't want them to make a decision for 4 years based on 4 games. I don't want them to make a decision at wide receiver that affects the next 4 years based on, hey, you might not have Rashee Rice the first month of the season. They didn't know what they were going to have in Tyreek Hill. That was a huge unknown. That's why they took Mecole Hardman.
Sure. Because
you didn't know. You needed to have at least that fallback plan. Rashee Rice is going to be on the Chiefs. Knock on wood, assuming he is not, dumb.
Sorry, dogs. I know everyone who's listening with dogs right now are very...
Knock on wood if you're with me. Thank you, Gruden. But, I do think there might be an element of draft strategy changing to a degree. Okay, maybe now you look more intent on wide receiver in the second round, where you might have beforehand just be like, oh, let's just sort of play it by ear. Let's see how the draft board falls. I also wonder, do they change the type of prospect they go and get? Whereas if you've got Hollywood for a year, Rashee Rice still under contract for 3 years, and without whatever happened with Rashee Rice, do you take a chance on somebody that might have more higher ceiling, but project is not a right word, but for lack of a better term, you've got some growing to do for that particular player. And with Hollywood and Rashee Rice and maybe a role for Sky Moore, Justin Watson, whoever, that guy can do some little things here or there and be more of the rookie wide receiver with Andy Reid as opposed to what Rashee Rice did last year. Or if there's a question about how long Rashee Rice is going to be out, do you take somebody that you feel like he may not have the higher ceiling, but we feel like he can be a good number 3 receiver in the NFL for a while? Not going to be a number 1. Maybe grow into a number 2, but right now, hey, you can put him out there as a number 3 wide receiver and feel good about who is on the field for you.
And what's tough is with even Rashee Rice, we all look back at the season in totality and say, well, yeah, he finally had success under an Andy Reid system as a rookie. But those first 4 games, was he really on the field a ton?
Weren't great. He had a drop issue. He was dropping the ball just as Kadarius Toney was. That got better.
Yeah.
And we saw the Chiefs use him in different ways, use him more in ways of like, okay, this is a skill set. This is what we get from him right now, and look at him blossom.
And I really like what you brought up as far as I don't want to sell 4 years for 4 games. And again, we all agree that wide receiver is going to be a position of need for Kansas City in the draft. So it's not like all of a sudden now they have to draft a wide receiver.
Oh my God,
they were going to. So
he's going to be out 4 games. Now you got to trade up to the top 10 to get more. You got to get. How do you not get? You got to come away with Rome Odunze. Rashee Rice might be out for 4 games. Get Rome. Do it now.
But my thought process was, do they need to get a more, as you mentioned, Game 1 ready rookie wide receiver again versus the project? Do you need more of the George Karlaftis or more of the FAU? Do you want to go with
I don't think either of them are going to play wide receiver, though, if you're wondering.
The style of do you want a guy in George who, again, I think has more upside than people gave credit to because he was so young. He was learning football still, and for some reason they're like, no, that guy's a finished project. I'm like, what?
Yeah, he's young.
But the body type, right?
Yeah.
You know the limitations there versus FAU, who was going to be the project who, again, probably is going to have to sit a year, redshirt a year, but the ceiling might be higher. Well, I think the same thing might happen at wide receiver. Do they say, let's take Ladd McConkey versus, again, maybe it is Xavier Worthy. Maybe it is, I don't want to say A.D. Mitchell. Maybe it is
Jalen Polk. I mean, it's second round, but you're
sure,
talking about first round?
I think first round because it's tough. Okay. Second round, I think Xavier Legette. Like
Keon Coleman, Roman Wilson, guys that might be late first round, early second round, but sort of depends on, again, your flavor.
But I think you're bringing up a very good point. You don't want to sell 4 years for 4 games. It's just tough because you don't like what you have with Sky Moore. Mm-hmm. You don't necessarily love with Justin Watson. So you're sitting here going, who is wide receiver 3 or even 2 with Rashee Rice out those games? Is another veteran in the cards? Because even with Rashee, those first 4 games wasn't like he took the league by storm.
Right. It might be another veteran that they go out and get after the draft, depending on how the draft board goes. And, you know, with this draft this year, I mean, yeah, there are a lot of wide receivers, and there's some wide receivers that you can get late day 2 or early day 2. I mean, just day 2 picks, second or third rounders. Whereas if you're looking at somebody that's going to play left tackle for you, probably going to have to get that guy on Thursday. Probably not going to find that guy on Friday unless you trade back and it's early Friday. Then maybe you can do that. But odds are, if you're going to get somebody that's going to be playing left tackle for you this year and you feel good about it, you're probably not taking him at 32 on Thursday. You're probably moving up and doing that. Where if you get somebody that you feel good about playing a wide receiver spot that can help out if Rashee Rice is gone for a few games and then actually be a good wide receiver for the next 4 years, you can get it in the second round. Because, again, Chiefs are going to have 2, sometimes 3 wide receivers out there at any given point. They're never going to have 2 left tackles out there on an offensive play where you're going to be passing the ball. Okay.
Wait a minute. Don't tell the Detroit Lions
I know.
this.
And yes, unless you're doing some trick play where somebody's got to come in and make sure they report as being eligible. But you only have 1 left tackle on the field. And if it's like, well, you got to get a stud wide receiver, that'd be great. That'd be great. But you also have Rashee Rice that's out there. You got some other guys that can play wide receiver. Right now, left tackle is open. And maybe it's Wanya Morris, maybe it's Donovan Smith, but maybe it's also somebody they get in the first round that maybe shouldn't be there. We'll find out. We'll take a timeout, come back, more Zone next. right, wrapping up this hour. We got some sports or leisure coming up at 1 o'clock. 913-381-0810. Let's load them up. We got Johnny's Tavern on the line. $25 for Johnny's Tavern. Been at least 1 week since we played because we didn't play it last week. We were packed with the Final Four interviews.
Avery still won somehow. Still got a card.
That's right. The Masters going on right now. A number of players out there on the course with the morning.
Useful that.
Oh, it's a lovely. Oh, it just nestled right next to the cup. Lovely shot.
I'm David Faraday.
I'm Jason Anderson. And that's next on 2020. Nobody has ice cream anymore.
You're into sports, but nothing wrong with a little leisure time. Why not both?
You're going to have a heart attack by the time you're 40 if you don't learn to relax.
It's time for sports or leisure on The Zone with Jason Anderson.
All right, hanging out on this Thursday edition of The Zone. Time for a little sports or leisure presented by Johnny's Tavern. $25 to Johnny's Tavern. We're giving on the it's on the line. We're giving out if you win sports or leisure. We're giving on the line. It's on the line. We're giving it out. If you win, you get a sports question. You get a leisure question. You get them both right. You win. That's right. That's
By
what
Toto.
Sterling says. I'm going to take your word for it. It's a great little dog. The sports or leisure game. You get sports, you get leisure, you win $25 to Johnny's Tavern. A little bit of news in the last, 20 minutes or so. Mizuhara, Shohei Ohtani's longtime interpreter and confidant, he has officially been charged with bank fraud. He's being charged with transferring. So you remember the number that we talked about that maybe was that he took from Shohei Ohtani? You remember that number, guys? About 4 million, right? Was the number that was sort of going around. It's been discovered he transferred more than $16 million
Yikes.
from Ohtani's account to an alleged sports book. The bets do not appear to have been, as U.S. Attorney Martin Estrada says, quote, the bets do not appear to have been made on the sport of baseball. They were placed between 2021 and 2024. According to Estrada, Mizuhara set up the account for Shohei Ohtani and didn't have access to Ohtani's reps or financial advisors. So he set up the account for Ohtani that his reps, financial advisors didn't know about. They didn't have access to that. It was just Mizuhara that set it up for Ohtani and was then siphoning money from that account for his gambling expenses. But also, how in the heck are you giving that much money in a bet to a guy that's making $80,000 a year? Unless you think it's for Ohtani. And maybe he just lied about it the whole time, like, hey, I'm placing this bet for Shohei. Oh, it's not on baseball. If the U.S. attorney says that federal authorities don't think that the bets do not appear to have been made on baseball, so, gambling, but not on baseball, but still $16 million that he's being alleged to have stolen from Shohei Ohtani. You know how much money you have to have if somebody steals $16 million from you and it isn't found out by you, but another investigation into gambling?
I'd assume a lot, Jason. I'd assume you'd have to have a lot of money.
Probably more than $16 million, because you would know that.
Yeah.
If you had only $16 million and somebody stole $16 million, you'd be keenly aware of that fact.
Dog, I check my bank statement like online, I don't know, once a week. I would know if $1,000 were gone.
Look at you. I'd know if $16 bucks.
Yeah. But my point,
16 million,
like,
no, 16
is
bucks.
he never
Honey, where'd that $16 go?
Bank account? Is he never checking?
Well, why would you, though? You've got financial advisors, reps. They might have you on like some sort of a salary. Here's your salary stipend, and we're putting the rest in whether investments.
How
or
did
the
they not know, like, right away?
They didn't have access to it. But also, how did they? Where's that $16 million coming from? How did it get into that account?
That's yes. Where does Chiefsaholic come into play?
He's saying, look, dude.
He's blitzing. Or no, I'm sorry. He was being blitzed.
He was being blitzed. The pressure was on.
And
that's
his
what
knee
that's what he's doing.
never went down.
He was running for the goal line, is what he was trying to do. He was stretching out and reaching for the end game to cross into pay dirt.
Xavier.
Yeah. Xavier Mizuhara is apparently the interpreter's name. He's Ohtani-holic for the Angels. 913-3-810-810. It's time for a little sports or leisure. 913-3-810-810. Like we said, how you play, you give us a call, load up the phone lines, you get a sports question, you get a leisure question, you get them both right, you win the prize, $25 to Johnny's Tavern. Get either of them wrong, you lose. Sorry about that. That's just the way the game goes. The categories are, I've got a couple Royals questions, but really it's the coaching carousel. College basketball coaching carousel today. And we'll ask you questions about coaches that have moved around, and you just tell me when they were born. The specific date of their birth is really what we're looking for. No, the names of the coaches. Go ahead, Sterling. What about Leisure?
We have a few here. We have a few left in Sing Me a Song, You're the Piano Man, which is Finish the Lyric. We still have What's That Name? Baseball edition, which is What is this dude's real name? Which we had a lot of fun with BJ Upton on. Bossman Jr. or Melvin. Yeah, was it fun or was it just, Dylan hitting the dump button? And then we also have, fun one, new one, Total Eclipse of the Heart.
Nice.
Space
Okay.
questions.
Yeah.
Space questions.
Woo! All right. We all get to go dark for about, 10 minutes. How long was it?
I know, it's a break.
10, 15 minutes? Not really sure. Charles Barkley had some thoughts on that, too. Y'all seen darkness before? These losers waiting for the eclipse.
You never seen a Charles Blimp
Sitting
before.
Sitting around waiting for darkness. Such a great line by Chuck. All right, 913-381-10. I'm ready to go. Sterling, you good to go?
Let's do it.
Dylan?
Let's do it.
Dylan's like baloney. He's born ready. Born ready, okay? All right, head to the phone lines, 913-381-810. And we start with T-Box here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. T-Box, sports or leisure, what side do you want to start with, brother?
Why don't you give me that coaching carousel? I'll try that.
All right.
Especially if it's an old one.
Well, let's see. Let's see. It might be an oldie but a goodie. We'll find out. He spent 7 years at an ACC school. He went to the tournament only one time. NCAA scandal followed him to the next school, where he's most known for suffering one of the biggest upsets in tournament history. That school, along with his next destination, lost faith in his ability to be a head coach. He's now an assistant for a Big 12 school.
I'll just go quick. Golly. I can't think of anybody. I was thinking Doc Sadler. But say the question one more time.
No problem.
7 years in an ACC school.
7 years at an ACC school, going to the tournament only one time, yet it still got him a job at a different school, but NCAA scandal followed him to that next school, most known for suffering one of the biggest upsets in tournament history. That school, along with his next destination, lost faith in his ability to be a head coach. He's now an assistant coach for a Big 12 school.
Man, I should know this.
I did put a hint in there towards the end.
Well, I'm sure the faith, I heard you say faith.
Mm-hmm.
So, golly.
You know this T-Box. You know this T-Box.
Basketball.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't need any more hints. I'll just say Billy Gillispie.
Billy Clyde, you know what? That was a disaster, too, but it did not work out. T-Box, that is not the correct answer either. Thank you, brother. Appreciate it, man, as always.
Okay,
absolutely. 913-381-810. That question is out there. You know the answer to it,
Yes,
Sterling.
correct.
Okay.
Yeah, the hint was very hinty.
The hint is, without the hint, it would make it a little more tougher, but the hint, matters. Let's go to Lindsay next up on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Lindsay, sports or leisure, what side do you want to start with?
Oh, give me a little Billy Joel Piano Man to start it off.
Right.
All right, sounds good. Do you want 90s or classic rock?
Ooh. How about classic rock? But unfortunately, 90s is becoming classic rock.
I was going to say,
hard.
Do you have a Venn diagram genre of 90s classic rock?
The song that I say 90s came out 33 years ago, and it's my favorite band, which is also, I guess, kind of a hint. But we'll go with Panama. Okay, I'll give you even the song title, Panama by Van Halen. Okay, jump back. What's that sound? Here she comes, full blasting top down. Hot shoe, burning down the avenue. Model citizen, blank, blank.
Zero Discipline.
Nails.
Nice.
You nailed it.
Well done. Nice job. I was going to go, let's have Big League Chew. But
at least this time you didn't jump in and sing it and ruin it like you did 2 weeks ago.
Well, I stopped doing that because I don't know when you're going to stop now.
I've tried to learn.
That was a little bit. You went a little bit longer there.
I thought to change my strategy because Jason here cannot wait.
Ooh, I know the answer. You're not the one playing, you jackass. Oh, okay. Sorry.
Your words.
Let's go over to the sports side, Lindsay. We got coaching carousel and a couple Royals questions, but really coaching carousel. We got a question out there with the coaching carousel.
Can I get a fresh coaching carousel?
Yes, you can. Let's rock this one. A D1 head coach going back to 1984. He's taken 3 of the 4 schools he coached at to the tournament, making a Final Four at 2 of those 3 stops. He left after 1 year to go to an alma mater. The school he didn't go to the Final Four, he left behind a pretty good assistant that did take that team to the Elite Eight. No longer coaching, not by his choice. He was recently fired for non-basketball related issues.
Oh, man.
Taking 2 different teams to the Final Four of his last 3 stops. The only team he didn't take to the Final Four is because he only coached there 1 year, because he returned to his alma mater. And now he's fired, not by his choice, for non-basketball related issues. Multiple.
Man, I mean, I don't know nothing about college basketball. Is Chris Beard still coaching?
He is still coaching.
Golly.
He's at Ole Miss. I'm glad you asked for this category, since
you didn't give him much of a choice.
Much choice, Jason.
You're
I
right.
apologize,
You're right. You're right, Lindsay. You're absolutely right.
Non-basketball related issues.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I'm not even going to guess. I'm just going to say from one Bearcat to another, go Ben McCollum. Big job at Creighton. Let's go, boys. Hopefully someone else can pick it up and win this one.
Yeah, we'll see. Appreciate it, Lindsay. 913-381-1010. Drake. Hell yeah, Ben McCollum. Let's do it. I think, you know what? Here's the thing. If Jerome Tang would have gone to Baylor, you know who I'm calling? Calling Ben McCollum. That's what I'm doing. If Dennis Gates leaves, I'll call him.
Ghostbusters is who I'm calling. I was told by that movie to call them.
You do what you got to do. There are a lot of people you can call. All right, there are a lot of phone numbers to call.
867-5309 was one.
That's one of them.
I know that one. Yeah.
That's one of them. You got it.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to Andrew next up on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Andrew, sports or leisure? What side do you want to start with?
Oh, let's try Eclipse.
Oh, all right. Eclipse. Let's get space with it. All right. What planet rotates on its side?
Rotates on its side. I don't know if I knew that any of them did.
One planet rotates on its side.
Only one of them.
I'll give you this. It's not Jupiter because everyone says Jupiter.
I said Saturn. I just gave you those 2.
So it's not Jupiter or Saturn because Jason, again, wants to give you another help.
And you know it's not Earth. Because if Earth rotated on its side, we would all fall off because it's flat.
Correct.
We would just slide right down. It'd be weird.
Oh, man. It's got to be one that's far out.
Agreed. It is far out, yes.
I know, like Mercury, the day is longer than a year. Hope I didn't take a...
No, you're good. I did not have a Mercury question, so you're golden. It has to be far out. You're on the right track here.
Yeah. Let's Uranus.
Yes, dude. Uranus rotates on its side.
How do you know? You know nothing about Andrew.
Yeah.
All right, on to the sports side, sir. And by the way, I guess Saturn, and then he was like, it's actually Uranus. I'm like, I'm so mad at myself because that's the only planet I usually ever guess because I'm 10 years old. Really?
It's really nice this time of year.
I know. It's beautiful right now.
Balmy.
It's beautiful. All right, we got a couple Royals questions. We got some coaching changes, a coaching carousel, college basketball coaching carousel. 2 questions out there already, some fresh ones as well.
Let's do coaching carousel. I'll do a fresh one.
All right, another fresh one. Well, you're just rolling through these, not getting the answer to them, but rolling through them. Okay. He was a Saluki for 5 years. The last 2 taking that team to the tournament before getting a job at a power program. In fact, playing for a national championship in his 2nd year. He was eventually fired at that school, hired by a Big 12 school a month later, after that school's coach left for a lesser program because of issues in the athletic department. The coach would go on to win the conference multiple times and even make an Elite Eight run, but never anything aspiring about his program. Eventually ended unceremoniously with him blaming everyone but himself for the results.
I missed half of that because I turned on the car.
Yeah, I heard that. It was nice.
That last part, I think I got it. Can you try it one more time? I'm sorry. I know it was really long.
No, you're good. You're good. He was a Saluki for 5 years. He went to the tournament a couple of times, took a big Power 5 job, went to a national championship game, ended up getting fired, took over at a Big 12 school a month later, won the conference a couple times, made an Elite 8 run. Nothing inspiring about the program, really. He was. It eventually ended unceremoniously, and he blamed everyone but himself for the results.
Is that Bruce Weber?
It is Bruce Weber. That is correct. Yeah, that's right. That's the correct answer. It was me. It was me. I haven't the one that did it.
Did Fyodor Dostoevsky write that question? Because that was the longest-winded question we have ever had on this show.
I don't think that's right. I don't think that's the longest-winded question we've
Dylan,
ever had
that
on the
was
show.
close, man.
You've
That
heard some of
was-
my other questions to some guests, by the way. Although it's a little different when it's like conversation discussion.
Yeah, I
like,
checked
with
out halfway
guests,
through. I was
as
with
opposed
him.
to-
I was with
yeah.
Andrew. I checked out. I started my car. He started his car during the question.
You started a proverbial car in your head. Like, I would like to drive away right now. All right, Andrew, that's a winner. You got Uranus and Bruce Weber. Sometimes those guys are interchangeable. We'll
That
tell
is
you.
the exact same thing.
We will put you on. A lot of K-State fans would say, he also rotates on his side. We will put you on hold, Andrew, and get your information. Congratulations, sir. 913-381-810. We got an answer to that question. 913-381-810. Let's go to the phone lines, and we bring in Charles. Next up on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Charles, sports or leisure, what side do you want to start with?
Let's do the sports.
All right, we got a couple Royals questions, and we have the college basketball coaching carousel.
Let's do that second missed the college carousel.
Yeah, the one about the coach dating back to 1984.
I think that's the one.
Okay,
right.
He's taken 3 of the 4 schools he's coached at to the tournament, making a Final Four at 2 of his final 3 stops. The school he didn't take to the Final Four, he left behind a pretty good assistant coach that took that team to the Elite 8. This coach is no longer coaching, not by his choice, recently fired for non-basketball related issues.
Isn't that Bob Huggy?
It is Huggins. It is Bob Huggins is correct, taking Cincinnati and West Virginia to the Final Four. Couldn't take K-State to the Final Four in his 1 year that he was there, but left behind a pretty good one, too. On to the leisure side with, Sterling.
We have Total Eclipse of the Heart, which is space. We have What's That Name Baseball Edition, what is this dude's real name? And then we have Sing Me a Song, You're the Piano Man, which is Finish the Lyric.
Let's do the what's that dude's name?
All right, what is this dude's name? We'll go with, you want older or newer?
Let's do older.
Oh, you want older. All right. What is Duke Snider's real name?
Duquesne.
Duke Snider.
Duke Snider, outfielder for the Dodgers, very famous in the Hall of Fame.
Outfielder for the Dodgers.
Yes. Hall of Famer. He has 407 home runs, an 8-time All-Star, 2-time World Series champion.
Yeah, he's a Boys of Summer. He's one of those guys.
Yeah.
Looks like Edwin Donald Snyder.
Is that what it looks like?
Is that what it looks like
Is
right
that what
there?
it looks like right there? Charles, did it look like that, or do you think it's that?
Kind of both of those, actually.
You know what? He looked it up in his brain. His brain is a Wikipedia site.
We've never had somebody tell on themselves before quite like that.
Incredible. Yeah, that was impressive. It looks like.
Well, it looks.
He's not even alive anymore. That's why it looks like
Well, that is true. But you said older.
You said older. I gave you options.
Yeah,
here.
but I'm not that old. God bless.
Charles, we'll put you on hold and get your information, sir.
I appreciate it.
Right. Well, looks like the answer here is Bob Huggins. Looks like the answer. So Duke Snider, that's spelled D-U-K-E. Is that Snyder with a Y or an I? I'm just trying to rack my brain and figure out which Duke Snider we're talking about here. So it's with an I. Okay, very good. Now, he played for the Dodgers specifically. Do you have a time frame and a range of years he played for the Dodgers, just so I can rack my brain?
Yeah,
on this one?
He actually has a notepad that he has written down all this information. He played from 1947 to 64.
All right, we'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll continue to play some sports or leisure. 913-3810810 is the phone number. $25 to Johnny's Tavern. More Zone next. at 2. We got Masters tonight at 9 o'clock. A little best of Sports Radio 810 at 6 o'clock, and then Masters tonight. Masters going on right now at Augusta, and the television coverage around, 3 o'clock. Was that on the movie Hot Shots with Charlie Sheen, the spoof on Top Gun? It's like, and we'll meet back here at 5:30 in the morning. I don't know why that always makes me laugh. But military time. We'll be back here at let's call it 5:30. We'll be here. All right, 913-381-0810. Playing some sports or leisure presented by Johnny's Tavern. $25 Johnny's Tavern on the line. Let's bring in Matt here to play a little sports or leisure. Matt, what side do you want to start with, the sports side or the leisure side, sir?
We'll take coaching carousel.
All right, so we got one out there already, and then we have a couple of fresh ones available.
I'll do the one you have out there.
All right, very good. He spent 7 years at an ACC school, going to the tournament only one time. NCAA scandal followed him to his next school, where he's most known for suffering one of the biggest upsets in tournament history. That school, along with his next destination, lost faith in his ability to be a head coach. He's now an assistant coach for a Big 12 school.
No faith in Frank Haith.
That is right, Frank Haith. If one thing tells you that Missouri should go and hire him, it's 7 years in the ACC and making the tournament once. That's a guy who's really ready to just take off.
Got to have faith in that guy.
Yeah, why wouldn't you? If you don't have, if you don't have faith in that guy, because that's the thing. Missouri turns coaches into great coaches. He was at Miami, where you can't go to a Final Four at Miami. Nobody's going to go to the Final Four at Miami. You just simply can't do it. Okay? Certainly not Frank Haith. On to leisure with Sterling.
We have Total Eclipse of the Heart, which is space, What's That Name, baseball edition, which is what is this dude's real name, and Sing Me a Song, You're the Piano Man, which is Finish the Lyric.
Let's try Piano Man.
All right. Do you want classic rock or 90s? Which, again, the 90s one is basically classic rock at this point.
Give me 90s, please.
All right. This is my favorite band, Red Hot Chili Peppers. Give it away now. All right. What I've got, you got to give it to your mama. What I got, you got to give it to your papa. What I've got, you got to give it to your blank.
I was about to.
Then you do a little dance, then you drink a bit of water.
I was going to jump in and do it because then I would have been giving it away.
Yeah, been good. Would have been nails, Jason.
Thank you.
What do you give it to?
I think it is your daughter.
It is your daughter. Well, not your daughter necessarily, but
could be. I don't know. Well done. That is a winner yet again. Nice job. We'll put you on hold, get your information, Matt. Well done, sports or leisure. $25 to Johnny's Tavern heading Matt's way. 913-381-0810 is the phone number. 913-381-0810. I do have a couple of more of college basketball coaching carousel questions. I may have to come up with a couple of more on the fly. We'll see if I have to do that or not. Let's go to Tim next up on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Tim, sports or leisure, sir? What side do you want to start with?
Matt beat me to it. I was one person late. I was ready to go on Frank No Faith Haith.
No faith in that dude.
As a Missouri fan, we've suffered quite the trail of tears in our own perspective.
It's been ridiculous.
Let's try coaching carousel. I'll give that a whirl.
All right, very good. Let's go with this one. A great last name. He's coached at 3 different Power 6 basketball programs, Power 6 including the Big East. But he got his start at UAB with a Cinderella run. He also advanced as far as the Elite 8. He's currently no longer coaching after being fired and replaced by a Hall of Fame coach.
Oh, man.
It's a great last name, coaching at 3 different Power 6 basketball programs. Got his start at UAB with a Cinderella run that got his name on the map. He did take a team to the Elite 8 and then took another job, got fired there, took another Power 6 program job, and got fired very recently, but was replaced by a current NBA Hall of Fame coach, or just basketball Hall of Fame coach, I should say.
Is it Andy Kennedy?
Andy Kennedy's not a bad guess, but it is not Andy Kennedy. I mean, the fact that you pulled Andy Kennedy there, I love that. Tim, thank you for playing, man. I appreciate it. 913-381-0810. Got an Andy Kennedy reference. Now I need to come up with an Andy Kennedy question just to throw people off. It's like, well, it can't be Andy Kennedy because Tim guessed that earlier. So maybe it's, I don't know, John Pelfrey. It is not.
I almost feel like he needs, like he gets $12.50 to...
Just by an Andy Kennedy poll?
Like if he gets the leisure correct, I feel like when you're like, all right, you get half of it. Cut it in half.
Well done. Yeah. All right, let's head to Chuck next up on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Chuck, sports or leisure, what side do you want to start with, man?
I'll start with sports. Can I get that Mike Anderson question?
Let's see, Mike Anderson question, yes. Let's see, here we go. A great last name. Yeah, see, there's a little bit of a hint. Coached at 3 different Power 6 basketball programs, Missouri, Arkansas, and St. John's. You got to start at UAB when they made a run in the tournament to the Sweet 16. He also advanced as far as the Elite 8 with Missouri when he had that really good team. Currently no longer coaching after being fired and replaced by a Hall of Fame coach, Rick Pitino at St. John's. Yeah. What say you?
Is that Phil Pressey's uncle? Or his dad's roommate, maybe? I don't know. DeMar Carroll's uncle, I think.
No, I think what you're looking for is Michael Anderson Jr.'s dad.
Oh, it is Mike Anderson Jr.'s dad.
Yes,
you're right.
Can
I go with Mike Anderson, please?
A coach like a Mike Anderson.
How many Mizzou
a dad
coaches?
A son like a Michael Anderson Jr., a Leo Lyons, a guy like a DeMar Carroll. What'd you say?
Hey, if you see a bear and him get in a fight, you better help the bear.
That's right. I'm actually going to help him. So sorry. I care about you, Mike. You took the team to the Elite 8 and you left a damn fine squad for Frank Haith. I'm not going to help the bear, man. Okay, I'm not going to do that. Over to leisure with Sterling. But yes, there are a couple Missouri coaches on there.
Is Quinn Snyder going to make a reference or
no? Because he wasn't. He didn't make another. He didn't go to another job after Missouri. In the college world, okay? Or he would have made it.
Yeah,
I think we're
he
kind
went to Siberia. Does that count?
Yes.
All right,
it counts. Yes, I know.
Do you know the categories, or do you need me to say them again?
Do you mind saying them again? I know there's a lyrics question,
Yeah.
the Piano Man. I mean, and there's I forget what else is there.
We have one last finish the lyric as of now. We have What's That Name? Baseball edition. What's the dude's real name? And then we have Total Eclipse of the Heart, which is space questions.
Let's go with space questions.
All right, this one was pretty cool. How many planets have spacecrafts visited?
Let's see, Earth. Ooh, does that count?
Yeah, does Earth count as this?
Does Earth count?
Earth counts.
Okay.
Well,
okay.
I mean,
well,
how many planets have spacecrafts visited? And I believe this was according to NASA. I was shocked by this. If this helps you, I was very surprised by this.
Well, you got a planet like a Marcus Denman, even a planet like a J.T. Tilla.
Okay, now I'm getting actually
a planet like a Kim English.
There's actually
sorry.
There's been, like TJ Soye.
There's actually been some pushback apparently on this question.
I mean, I'm not pushing back on it.
Like
so
landing on the planet, or just like
I guess we'll go land.
Are you now questioning your own question?
It was actually my research that has been pushing back on that.
Yay!
Yeah.
So so there are two answers we'll accept then.
Yes.
Well,
I'm fine with
there's
accepting
landed
two
on, and apparently there's ones where they've like visited and flown by. So
can you visit somebody if you don't actually go? Like, can you visit friends, but if you just sort of just drove by that house?
If you waved at the planet, I guess.
Did you? I mean, visit is maybe a word that could be multiple interpretations that might be a little too lenient here with that one. But, if there's another term to come up with, planets flown to, whether landing or orbiting or waving at on their way by.
Yeah, this question I think this is probably on me.
Actually,
so the clock for a new question.
The clock is actually just for Sterling to ask the question.
Yeah, I'll give you a new question because I'm getting Venus and Mars have been landed on. One crashed on Mercury. So do you count a crash on Mercury?
Yes.
And apparently every single one has had driven by. So
right, I think they had flybys on them all at the very least. So
yeah, they've done flybys.
How it was done.
They've done flybys.
Every single planet has had the tower buzzed.
Yeah. All right.
Including Uranus.
All right, I'll give you an easy one. Is Pluto a 9th planet? Is Pluto considered the 9th planet still?
Is that an easy one? Because that seems like that's the most difficult question
It's
ever.
gone back and forth a lot. So is it the 9th planet? Yeah.
In my heart, yes. According to NASA, no.
Yeah, it's no. It's considered now a dwarf planet. So,
But Chuck, that's actually the right answer. In my heart, yes. According to NASA, no. The more and more I think about NASA, the more and more I question their intelligence. I mean, if you're going to take Pluto away from us, all right, what else is going to happen? Or now we're going to go back and change history books? Oh, yeah. Chuck, we'll put you on hold and get your information. Congratulations, sir. Well done. 913-381-810 is the phone number. 913-381-810. I just love that you hadn't even really started your question before you started questioning the answer to it.
Well, I wanted to look it up again, and they've driven by, and I can see the confusion. They've flown by. They've landed technically on two, Venus and Mars, and if you want to count Earth, obviously. Well, they crashed on
Does Earth count as a
Mercury.
Spacecraft? Because Earth wouldn't be
you build
in
it.
space.
You build the spacecraft. Well, Earth is in space, dude. Like, it's in.
Are you
in
sure?
Space.
How can you be so sure? Let's go to Ben next up on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Ben, sports or leisure, what side do you want to start with?
Let's go sports, and let's try another coaching carousel.
All right, coaching carousel for you. This is one of my favorite ones. A former bouncer and high school basketball coach, paying your dues wasn't an issue for him, coaching high school and being an assistant for 23 years before getting his first shot at being a head coach. That first shot coming at a power conference program. He made the tournament 4 to 5 years he was there, including an Elite Eight run. Good vibes would run out as he decided to head back to the East Coast in a surprising move to a non-traditional program, issues with his relationship with the AD being the reason. He ended up making an unexpected Final Four run at that next destination. Although 5 years later he was fired, never making the postseason again. He's now a head coach at an A-10 school.
Oh, crud.
I just like the fact of just thinking of like the past of this guy that we all got to know pretty well, the former bouncer. Like this guy was a bouncer. He got shot at when he was doing that, and he decided I should coach basketball.
Throwing dudes out of a bar.
Maybe I should stop being a bouncer. Let me try coaching basketball. All right, I'll coach high school basketball.
They're bouncing in both. Bouncing in the name and bouncing
great point.
basketballs.
That's
yeah,
a good
so
point.
They translate.
It's a great point. It's a great point. Went to an Elite Eight at a school. He was there 5 years, ended up leaving because of an issue with the athletic director.
Okay. Is it Frank Martin?
It was Frank Martin. That's right. Frank Martin. Well done. That is correct. Frank Martin, who is now at Massachusetts.
Yeah, UMass.
That's right. Yep. Nailed it. And I'm the one that looked up the question, by the way. Sterling on to leisure with that guy over there, Ben.
Do you know them, or do I need to say them yet again?
Let's just do an eclipse one.
What was that? Sorry.
The eclipse of the heart.
Okay, yeah,
okay.
we'll do that
Let's
one.
do that one.
Yeah, let's do that one. All right, here we go.
How many planets have spacecrafts visited?
How many billions of stars are in our galaxy? A rough estimate is fine because they've not actually counted every single one. How many billions of stars are in our galaxy?
A rough estimate. Like, I'm going to say 1 billion.
You have no...
572 million. 350,000.
tell you there's a lot here, Jason.
542. Correct. It's exactly what it is.
More than 23 billion is what I'm... Because, let's be real now. I wouldn't be asking this question if it wasn't more than 10.
I see.
Yeah.
I want Ben to go, looks like it says here that they're...
These questions were very hard to come up with, Jason.
Ben, what do you say? How many billions of stars are there out there?
I got like 200 billion.
Well, we're going to count it. It says anywhere from 100 to 400 billion. So 200, you're right in the middle.
Nice job. Well done.
Good job.
Okay.
Says right there, around 200 billion. Ben, we'll put you on hold and get your information. Congratulations, man.
You guys.
All right.
200 billion and one, because he's one for getting that question correct.
Oh, he's a star. I see what you did there. We'll take a timeout, come back, and wrap up the show coming up next. play some sports or leisure. Few winners that we had today. I don't have any questions out there that I did not get an answer to. All of my college basketball coaching carousel questions were correctly called.
Same, actually.
Trying to get as many words in there for an alliteration as possible. You didn't have any out there?
No, everyone got them.
So did we give an answer as to what the discrepancy was on the how many planets it was either visited or... So we said what it was either 8 or 9, or was it?
I'm just an idiot. No,
you're not.
I'm just a.
Don't say that about
yourself.
Well,
I looked up conflicting knowledge reports, and I guess it depends on your. If you have your druthers, do you depend on? Do you have to fly by or land? If it's land, well then it's only Mars, Earth, and
they haven't had
and Venus.
There's no spaceship landed on Earth, unless you're talking about another planet's.
No, they've
spaceship.
landed. They've landed. Like.
There's never been a
how do they come back, dude?
Damn it, that's what I was getting to. There's never been a spaceship leave this planet, go to outer space, and then come back and land. Never happened. It's all been done in a TV studio. You didn't know that? TV studio, man, because the Earth is flat.
We're throwing hands, man. We're throwing hands.
TV studio, Earth is flat.
If Sterling doesn't, we know Buzz will.
That's what you're going to say, Buzz.
I love that, dude. By the way, Buzz
all-timer.
Knock some dudes out, man.
Yeah. As he should.
Good for him.
Good for Buzz.
Absolutely. How was the flag waving then?
I don't know. I'm apparently very bad at space, so you could tell me anything in regards to space, and I might
saying you don't have spatial awareness.
I'm the Kadarius Toney of space.
It means you dropped the ball. I don't think you dropped the ball today, Sterling. Don't say that. You were just fine. All right, the program comes up next. Oh, they got a fun show today. Be listening in. The Masters and an awesome remote. Thank you for listening. Program next.